The NFL is finally back.
And so are the Cappers Contest and the Survivor Pools.
Congratulations to our Season 3 champion, Nunya, who joins the Pub Sports Radio Wall of Fame alongside our Season 2 co-champions, Guillermo Zertucci and Sharpie, and our inaugural champion, Peter Loshek.
And we're back for year 4.
The Cappers Contest lines come out every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. You pick your favorite 5 bets against the spread. Picks must be in by Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. You get 1 point for a win, half a point for a push. The victor at the end of the season is the one with the most total points.
$100 to enter each contest, of which 4% go to covering credit card fees, and the top 10% get paid.
But there's more. The great people at Harbor Acres Cottages in beautiful Nova Scotia, Canada, have offered up $1,000 for the capper who accumulates the most perfect weeks throughout the duration of the regular season. $1,000 from Harbor Acres Cottages. May the greatest football capper reap all the rewards.
Sign up right now at pubsportsradio.com.
Wide open Torrence! Oh, baby! Touchdown! How do you leave the best receiver in the NAIA that wide open?
You show, and that's what we do! Cat!
You're proud of me? And it's caught! Oh my goodness! Troy Torrence comes down with it!
Welcome all to our Season 3 premiere of Bankroll Blitz. I am Jimmy the Bag, alongside for the 3rd season, my friend, Mr. Troy Torrence. Troy, how are you?
I'm doing well now that I'm sitting here talking football. Jesus, baseball was a long, treacherous season, lots of ups and downs. I'm ready to get back in the gridiron.
I am as well. The last 48 hours, I've been alone. Family left me alone so I could properly prepare for this show. 48 hours. I maybe slept for 6 hours. It's all gone into the prep for the season and for this show. Thank you guys so much for joining us. AM, Gerald Jones, Nasty Nate, Coin Kongs, Clips, T-Moss, Jared, JB in the house. Great to see you guys. We have our first future of the year here from our friend Coin. Seattle under 7.5 wins at plus 120. We're going to go through the NFC here on show number 1, and then we will return a few hours later for the AFC show number 2. Luke Burrow, it is great to have you. It is great to have all of you guys here. Troy, we had a strong season. Yours was not for the faint of heart. You went down quite a bit. And as always, you dug in and you climbed your way out of it. I had the most consistent season I've ever had in NFL. I would like to continue that here. Every year is more important than the last. The stakes just get higher. The importance of succeeding only climbs and grows. And I'm really excited to be here on our 3rd season together, Troy. Very, very excited. Are you ready to get to work, my friend?
I'm just honored to be sitting up here with you. I can go on a long spiel about how everybody should be listening to Jimmy the Bag. Just talk about sports betting ideology. I think it's so important what you bring to the table. You're one of the only people in the industry that basically have this type of approach, and it's had a major impact on me. My 3rd season here at Bankroll Blitz, the first season was, I had 50 units at one point. I think I finished in the 30s somewhere. Mm-hmm. Last season, the future definitely helped, thank goodness. But, we finished in the profit, and I'm ready to get after it, man. I'm very excited. Let's dive in.
Let's go. Dougie Wise, D. Jenkins, thank you all for joining us. Let's get to work. We start in the NFC East and the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. This is a squad that made us both a lot of money in the futures market made you more, because I was only on them to win the NFC. I didn't take them to win the Super Bowl, much to my chagrin. Let's get to work. The Philadelphia Eagles last year were 14-3. All of these odds that you will hear are from Bet365 over the last 12 hours, 24 hours, 36 hours. So they're all up to date with all of the moves, the roster moves that have taken place over the last little while, and the injuries as well. We have the Super Bowl champs are plus 700 to win it again. They're minus 150 to win the NFC East. And their win total is 11.5, and it is juiced to the under. Nick Sirianni is in his 5th season as head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. Offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo is in his 1st. Kellen Moore left for the head coaching job for the Saints. And defensive coordinator Vic Fangio is in his 2nd season here. I'm going to copy and paste action come in here from the chat. We got Birdie's futures as well. I will copy and paste all of the action from you guys, all of your future bets here, because at this point right now on Sunday, August 31st, I have yet to move on one. It's all going to be figured out here over the next little while. Let's roll. These defending champions return largely intact, Troy. It's hard to find holes or question marks with this team. They have a very strong roster. Jalen Hurts started 15 games in the regular season. He averaged 193.5 yards passing a game. So he threw for less yards, but he got in less trouble. Just 5 interceptions, 10 less than 2023. The lack of yards through the air becomes less of an issue when you have Saquon Barkley rushing for 2,005 yards. Hurts himself added 630 yards and 14 touchdowns on the ground. A.J. Brown caught 67 passes for 1,079 yards and 7 touchdowns. And Devonta Smith caught 89 for 833 yards and 8 touchdowns. There is not much depth behind them. So we've seen that slow the Eagles down. When there's an injury to either A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith, their defense becomes much, much more important. Their offensive line protecting Hurts is incredible. The tackle tandem of Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata are amazing. Landon Dickerson was named to his first Pro Bowl last year. So was center Cam Jurgens. He signed a big extension during the offseason. Their defense under Fangio was amazing. They were easily the highest graded defense in the NFL. Now, this is a different defense than what we've seen in previous Eagle incarnations. This isn't the record-breaking 2022 pass rush that had an NFL record 70 sacks, but they get pressure. They had 41 sacks in 2024, and Josh Sweat led the team with 8 sacks. Sweat is gone. He's been a fixture of this Eagles pass rush. He was a part of that record-breaking group in 2022 as well. Zach Bond has become an absolute monster. Jalen Carter is a superstar, and Jalen Carter anchors this unit and should have a big year. Bond was the number 1 ranked linebacker in the NFL. He anchors an extremely strong group in the secondary. In his first season out of Iowa, Cooper DeJean was the number 1 ranked cornerback. Absolutely spectacular. This team is very good. They are the hunted. They are the champions. What are your thoughts after cashing big with the Philadelphia Eagles last year in the futures market? Are you interested in backing them again?
You know, I just want to talk about these teams, some of these teams more in context, because it's hard to go back to a well after that was my first, I don't place a lot of futures. So I had 2 last year with the Lions and the Eagles, both in the same NFC, right? But it's hard to go back to a team that's perceived this high in the market. And you look at the roster, there's not a lot of holes. Like you said, there's some depth issues, but the coaching staff is where I start, right? With every single team on here. And Sirianni, he faced a lot of criticism over the past few years, but he has the respect. He knows how to connect with players. He knows how to connect with the organization in the front office. And I feel like that's what's shown through, and that's why they were able to overcome. And I've talked about Vic Fangio until I was blue in the face. I think that, it's impressive what he's done, right? I think he's the best defensive coordinator in the league, and it's not just because of the X's and O's. It's the way he's able to innovate in his defensive schemes and to cater to his personnel, because I think that's what we've seen last year. But just to go, you go across each and every single, layer of this offense and defense, like the offensive line. This is the best offensive line in the NFL. And this is one of the main reasons I had futures on them last year, is because I could not see team stopping Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley behind this offensive line. When you have a two-team or a tandem running, situation like that, it's really difficult to stop and to plan for. And all the talent you could harness on offense is useless if you cannot block for them and you cannot scheme for them. We know that that's here. Being able to grind the ball out on the ground is the biggest luxury in the NFL. Obviously, you got Saquon, who, we don't need to go into him, but I think you hit it on the head. There's really not a lot of depth at the wide receiver position. And what happened when we seen A.J. Brown to go down last year, there's a massive gap there. There's a lot of struggles this offense had without him. So I think that's something to keep in mind because, maybe somebody emerges, right? There's a lot of players that every single year, the NFL's not for long. There's a lot of turnover. We're going to see a lot of new players. And I expect to see that with this Eagles. Hopefully they have somebody lurking in the shadows that nobody knows about. I'm sure there's a lot of players in the NFL like that this year. And Jalen Hurts, I think that this guy has been tested. He's went through all the adversity. He's been down in the dumps, left in the gutter by his former coach and his former team. He rose, he continues to rise to the occasion. I believe in him. He has flaws. Every quarterback does. But at the end of the day, he knows how to win. And, I'm a massive believer in him. Go to look at this defense. You talked about the defensive line. They don't apply a lot of pressure, but they stop the run. They're one of the most difficult defensive lines to deal with because they don't give up an inch. You got Jalen Carter, who's probably the best interior defender in the NFL. They really need Nolan Smith to take a step forward this year, and I think they will. In the secondary, Cooper DeJean, I think he's the best slot corner. They do this cross-match concept. He's perfect for it. He could do anything that Fangio asks of him because he has the IQ to be able to do so. And I think Quinyon Mitchell is going to be a top 5 corner in the NFL. I expect this team to be probably the biggest favorite on average. And, obviously that's complete, shift of gears from where we were last year. I don't think there's a lot of value in the futures market. And it's going to be hard not to want to back this team every week. So I'm going to have to keep that in my mind as we go. This is a future show, but I kind of want to lay the foundation for the entire season because this Eagles team is going to be hard not to want to bet, to tease, and I kind of want to stay away from that. But I think that a marker of these great teams, because what happens in the NFL, look at the last 10 years of football. You got the Patriots, you got the Niners making the Super Bowl, and then you got the Chiefs, right? There's a lot of, these teams are able to repeat. They're able to repeat success. I think this could be one of those teams. I'm really in a difficult spot with this team and what I plan on doing with them throughout the season, but no futures for me, Jim.
I don't think the plus 700 is. I think it's fine. I wouldn't want a division at minus 150 right now.
Yeah,
we have, cappers in the chat that have moved. They got a better number than minus 150. So D Jenkins catch on the Eagles division last season at minus 125. For cappers that don't have the luxury of having a local that uses credit, it's pretty tough to hold up cash for a minus future. But I think the plus 700's not a bad ticket to have in your pocket. I just don't know if I want one.
That's the hard part about futures. I feel like it's way harder to really truly have an edge. You can make the right pick, but in the long run, it's just so hard to beat futures. It's just so hard to beat the future market. So I'm really walking on eggshells today.
I understand that. I feel the same way. We succeeded in a big way last year with futures. I've been trying to cut down my futures for a few years now, and it's very successful in Major League Baseball where I only have one team, futures on one team, and that's the Brewers preseason and midseason.
Well, I told you this, Jimmy. I feel like I've seen a complete, a level up. You evolved. You've evolved over the past year, and it's great to see. And I'm really, I'm really going to be piggybacking, really taking your perspective way more seriously here moving forward.
Let's hope, and let's just put in the work. Once you put in the work, the results generally follow. We're going to stay in the NFC East here. So let's roll on to the Washington Commanders. 12-5 last season. Super Bowl was 20-1. The division plus 210. And the win total at 9.5. The over at minus 130. Dan Quinn's second season as head coach. Cliff Kingsbury's second season as offensive coordinator. And Joe Witt Jr.'s second season as defensive coordinator. In Dan Quinn's first season as head coach and Jaden Daniels' rookie season, the Commanders win 12 games for the first time since 1991. This team looks even stronger on paper, and yet the books are letting you get paid if they get to 10 wins. It sounds like the market expects the sophomore jinx, the same thing that befell the Texans' C.J. Stroud and DeMeco Ryans in this exact same situation last year. Jaden Daniels is spectacular. Started all 17 games, threw for 3,568 yards, 25 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, ran for 891 yards and 6 touchdowns. Terry McLaurin got his $96 million 3-year extension. Deebo Samuel comes in from the Niners. Zach Ertz returns at tight end. And here we go. Coyne has under 9.5 wins at plus 105. They have a much more difficult schedule. This is from our friend Coyne. He says, I don't see everything going right like it did last year. And we have an example from the Houston Texans, who had a tougher schedule, still won their division, but came in under their win total. They're bringing back Brian Robertson Jr. and the oft-injured Austin Eckler. They trade for Laramie Tunsil. They use their first-round pick on Oregon's Josh Conerly Jr. to fortify the offensive line, Oregon's Josh Conerly Jr. Their run defense was a real problem. It was 30th in the league, and their pass rush was terrible. So they signed 7 defensive linemen in free agency, most notably Javon Kinlaw from the Niners. They have a Pro Bowler in Daron Payne, but they need more. And they need a productive, healthy season out of Marshawn Lattimore. They have Mike Sainristil still, 2024 second rounder. He was a revelation last season. I questioned whether Bobby Wagner could still deliver at linebacker at 35. And what you hear from them is that, yes, he's lost a step, but his leadership is immeasurable. He played 99% of snaps last year. He'll be out there with Frankie Louvu. They brought in Von Miller. That is a weathered group. A weathered group I don't trust. But do I have the balls here to bet the under? Take it away.
I'm right in the same headspace you are. I think this coaching staff really did a number for them, especially Cliff Kingsbury. But then I say that and you watch the tape and it was really Jaden Daniels. Kind of ad hocing, being able to adjust after the snap, being able to scramble, converting on 4th down at a ridiculous rate. What the Commanders did last season is not a repeatable thing. I think I don't know if you touched on this. I got kind of lost in the chat because I'm in the same boat as a lot of these cappers. I want to bet the under this Commanders total. The 9.5 is glaring. Somebody mentioned their odds to make the playoffs being minus 140, which seems short for a team that was in the conference championship just last year with the same exact team. And this is going to be the perfect team to fade. I was fading them down the stretch last year, and I had a lot of success up until they played the Lions in the playoffs, and I took a huge hit on the chin, and I got it all back the next week with the Eagles. But I think my analysis on this team is correct. I think that the offensive line is overpriced, overgraded, and I think that's largely because of Cliff Kingsbury and because of the scheme. Right, any scheme could save an offensive line. We've seen it with McVay. We've seen it with a lot of offensive coordinators that are high caliber. And I want to split the credit between Cliff and Daniels because both these guys saved this offensive line. This offensive line is not good. We've seen it in the NFC Championship game. They did add Laramie Tunsil, who brings a lot of value. But the only hope outside of Tunsil is one offensive lineman, and it's Coleman. We know who the rest of these guys are. They've been in the league. They're below average players. And I feel like we're going to see that come to fruition this year. This is a first-tier wide receiver unit, right? I think Diami Brown, his rise to stardom did not surprise me. And Deebo, if he get right, stay healthy, he brings the type of versatility an offense like this needs. So there's some ups, it's not all negatives with this team. There are some feathers in the cap, but like I said, man, the 4th down conversion rate, the EPA metrics on 4th down are just not going to last. They're going to come crashing back down to earth this season. That's what the numbers are telling us. That's what the bookies are saying. And the biggest thorn in the side of this team is the defense, right? I mean, they have a bottom 10 defensive line. They acquired Miller, right? He had 300 snaps last season, posted out as 11th best, posted a grade that was 11th best per PFF at the edge. He can still pass rush. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to completely shit on him, but he's very, very reluctant to get involved with stopping the run. He does not want to be very physical. He wants to pass rush. So maybe he's a platoon type of situation. And they lost Fowler. Like, I don't know. The defensive line's not good. The secondary is even worse. Lattimore posted the worst grade of his career. He looked terrible. I mean, who do they got? The only player there's only one player that's not below the Mason-Dixon line, and that's Jones. I mean, I'm really starting to lean towards this under. You get plus 100. It's even money. This is a future show. This is my first official bet of the NFL season. I'm going to move on the under 9.5 at plus 100. If that's what's being offered, I'm going to go check it out right now.
Under 9.5 wins. I imagine you can get better than plus 100. And I apologize for the Brian Robinson Jr. traded 9 days ago to the San Francisco 49ers. Do they actually believe here that Austin Eckler, who, if you look, it says he's 30, he's broken. I mean, do they really? I mean, you get some run from Jeremy McNichols. You got Krosky Merritt. Man, how that's it's very interesting how there's so many similarities to what happened with the Texans last year. And we have Troy moving on his first spot under 9.5 wins. And the future bets that cash are the ones that are uncomfortable to make. And I imagine that is uncomfortable to make. And Dougie Wise and Coin are with you on that one. Birdie says Houston had one of the worst O-lines in the NFL in 2024. And they basically said here, have our Pro Bowl left tackle. We are good. That has to say something about Tunsil. And the numbers, a lot of the numbers from Tunsil were poor. It depends what stats you were looking at. They felt like he was at least not needed. Let's put it that way with Laramie Tunsil. Pacheco de Gallo says that under 9.5 is minus 120 on FanDuel. It's plus 100 right now here at 365. And Coin got the plus 105.
I mean, the difference between plus 100 and minus 120 is insane. Like, talking about 5 points of difference. Like, yeah, you got to look for a plus 100. I'm still shopping. I'm trying to find it. But if you could just mark me down for this bet, you give me plus 100 if that's what you can. I'm looking for one, Jim.
Let's do it. And D. Jenkins says, do we think it's safer to take Commanders to miss the playoffs, considering they could win 10 games and still miss it, considering how good the NFC is right now? I mean, what have we had? We've had one team in the last 4 years that's won 10 games and not made the playoffs.
Oh, sorry, Jim. I don't mean to cut you off.
No worries. Jump in.
I just want to say, because I just scrolled up and I see one of my notes here about how terrible this team is at stopping the run. You can look at, I watch, so I can't help myself with this football stuff. It's in my blood. I watch every single game, at least a few series of every single game. Most of the time, I'm watching every single snap. Now, be it in 2x speed, be it very sparingly, but I'm watching a lot of this game. I'm watching film. This defense will not be able to stop the run, just like they weren't able to stop the run last season. When they run into a competent opponent, they're going to get blown off the ball. Not one of their defensive linemen grades out in the top 90 in run D out of 120. So they're not even in the top 90. Like, this is really bad situation for this team, especially in a division with the Eagles. Now, luckily, they should have some success elsewhere, but yeah, it's going to be tough for them.
Well, I'm interested in joining you guys on the under 9.5 wins and or the playoffs. I'll look at both. And Dennis Garcia says, what's uncomfortable? Washington is mid with a quarterback due to regress. Let's roll on to our next team here in the NFC East, and that is the Dallas Cowboys. 7-10 last year. To win the Super Bowl, 65-1 plus 6,500. To win the division, 7-1. And their win total is at 7.5 plus money, plus 100 to the over and minus 130 to the under. Brian Schottenheimer takes over first season as head coach. Offensive coordinator Clayton Adams, first season as OC. And Matt Eberflus, first season as defensive coordinator here. Now, AM says, this is the win total I would love to bet the over. And I get it. I get it. I like to bet against the, overriding feeling of the public. And that's that the Cowboys are screwed without Micah Parsons. Schottenheimer has his work cut out for him. Their biggest strength was expected to be the pass rush. Now Parsons has been shipped to Green Bay for Kenny Clark and 2 first-rounders. I like it. Jerry's been out-negotiated back-to-back seasons for huge dollars, and he'd had enough. I don't think it's the worst move at all, especially for a team that needs to start stockpiling first-round draft picks. But this front group, they brought in Dante Fowler. You talked about the Commanders losing him, and they're going to need a big, big season from Ola Odigizua, a huge season. Their run defense was terrible last year, and I don't see how this is going to change. Dak Prescott did not look good last year before getting hurt. He had a career low passing rating. In 8 games, he averaged 247 yards a game through the air, but 11 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Also, he's missed 26 games during the past 5 seasons. It was so easy last year to double CeeDee Lamb. This year, it becomes more difficult with the addition of George Pickens. And a big shout out to our friend Kevin Ponachera, back in business with us, gifting 10 Pub Sports Radio memberships. That means a ton to us, Kevin. Thank you so much for your support, your ongoing support.
I haven't seen him in chat in a minute. Football comes back.
Football comes back. He's ready to go. But he's always supporting the channel, and it means a ton to us. Kevin, thank you so much, my friend. So we have George Pickens, who there are some statistical question marks with what he delivers, but at least he'll get the attention, some of the attention away from CeeDee Lamb. Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders make up a weak running back group. Is that better than last year's combo of Rico Dowdle and Zeke Elliott? Rico Dowdle had a pretty good season. He ran for 1,079 yards. What do you think the chances are Javonte Williams runs for 1,000 yards? 0. Or I shouldn't say 0. There's nothing 0 here. Birdie says it's ironic that you trade a great player in Parsons and your defense actually has a chance to improve because you now have a guy that will stop the run. Dallas, like Washington, couldn't stop the run. So we have tight end Jake Ferguson in a contract year. That should help. He didn't look good last year. He's in a contract year. He should step up because Schoonmaker has not lived up to the hype as being the second-round pick in 2023. The O-line has to handle the retirement of Zach Martin. Tyler Smith becomes the new anchor. You have Cooper Beebe, who will be better in his second year. And they drafted Alabama left guard Tyler Booker, 12th overall out of Alabama. Eberflus replaces Mike Zimmer, who replaced Dan Quinn. It's 3 D coordinators in 3 years. The Cowboys traded for Kenneth Murray Jr. and Jack Sanborn comes over from Chicago. Their linebacking group will be better, but will they be good? Trayvon Diggs is good to go after undergoing knee surgery in January. The secondary appears to be a strong suit. And after the Micah Parsons trade sentiment, and the sentiment being fade the Cowboys, can we take advantage of that? They went 7-10 last year. Can they win 7 games this year? Now, they need to win 8 for you to cash the over. The under is juiced. Take it away here for us, Troy, the Dallas Cowboys.
I think this was hilarious because I always start with the coaching again. And, you know, you look at who Mike McCarthy was as a coach, as a human, and they hire a guy like that I think is almost the spitting image, the twin of Mike McCarthy as it relates to his scheme for sure. He gets married to his scheme. He's unwilling to change. This is a guy with the same exact characteristics as Mike McCarthy, if you ask me. It's like one of those guys who can't stop dating the crazy chick. They can just go from one to the next. That's who the Cowboys are. He wants to run the ball on first down, you know, play action on second down. Then if it's third and short, run the ball. If it's third and long, pass the ball. Like it's robotic. But at the same time, you know, you think about robotic. That's what I am as a sports bettor. That's what I am as a blackjack player. That's what I am as a poker player. I'm robotic. It almost becomes numb to me, because it's simply what a numbers game at the end of the day. So it's kind of attractive at the same point of who he is and who Mike McCarthy was. And I just don't know. Like I think about Matt Eberflus, obviously a great defensive mind, could have command a locker room from a head coach standpoint. And I think that his defensive scheme reduces the effectiveness of the pass rush. But what it does, to Birdie's point, and the trade based on the trade they made, it definitely improves their ability to stop the run. And I think Matt Eberflus will help them do that as a defensive coordinator. The offensive line has been a strength at in Dallas for a long time was a strength. Now it's a weakness. Is there any young, if they're young linemen that they drafted and that they acquired, if they turn out like Guyton did, they're going to be god awful this year. They're going to depend on those guys to develop very quickly, and they haven't looked very good. They haven't put good film on tape. And I think it's funny that a kid from the MAC is their best offensive lineman, Tyler Smith. Just up and down. Yeah, they got a cancer. Pickens, a pick me, a me type of guy. I don't like this guy at all. He's nonchalant. He's lackadaisical. And overall, I think he's a very talented player, but he's a cancer. He doesn't want to block. He's not going to hustle. He's going to be lackadaisical out there. I don't like that for a team like the Cowboys and, who they are. And I think of Prescott, I don't know what to believe. He's been in pretty shitty situations under McCarthy, but this guy makes mistakes. And he just continues to put the ball in harm's way at the most important times of the game. Prescott is not one of the top quarterbacks in the league like we thought he'd grow into. The defense is pretty terrible from defensive line at all three levels of the field. I'm not interested in this team. I know that there was some sharps, and I was watching some content that some people thought that this was a value bet on the Cowboys, and this was before they lost Mika, so I wonder where they stand now. But I just cannot get behind this team, and it's just too difficult for me, especially in the division with the Eagles. 2 L's on their schedule off the bat for sure. I expect them to be a flop this season, to be honest. I don't like the coaching staff. I'm out on the Cowboys.
I get being out, but I want to fade the sentiment, and Birdie says it's not an endorsement for a pro Dallas bet, but perhaps the overreaction is a bit too wide on Parsons leaving. And I completely get that. We have Birdie says very high on Seattle and the Bucs, very low on the Packers and 49ers. Let's get this copied and pasted. D. Jenkins says, any reason I should hedge my Eagles to win the division with Cowgirls division, considering I don't believe in the Commanders at all? I don't see how this group can do it. The only way I think they could do it is if, Jalen Hurts gets hurt in the first couple weeks. Because let's talk about our fourth team in the mix here before we can kind of put it all together. But I don't think it's necessary, D. Jenkins, unless. But Brandon Cummings says Dallas 9-8 and misses the playoffs. We got Kevin Ponticelli moving on Notre Dame here. Let's roll on to our next spot here in the NFC East. It's the New York Giants, 3-14 last year. They are 175-1 to win the Super Bowl, plus 17,500. They're 22-1 to win the division, and their win total is at 5.5. Juice to the over, slightly at -130. Brian Daboll, 4th season as head coach. Mike Kafka, who he brought with him, 4th season as offensive coordinator, and Shane Bowen is in his 2nd year as defensive coordinator. In Daboll's first season in New York, he won 9 games. Second season, he won 6. Last year, he won 3. So if this pattern continues, they'll go 0-17 this year. Russell Wilson still does some good things. It's interesting. I was pretty astonished, and it took me a long time to kind of stop studying it because I was surprised that he had done some good things. In my mind, he hadn't. But he had. His quarterback rating was 14th. I found that very difficult to believe those numbers. But it all came down to his deep ball. His deep ball is still very good. He had a 97.3 passing grade on throws of 20-plus air yards. That was number 1 for all qualified quarterbacks. He tied Lamar Jackson for the 2nd lowest turnover-worthy play rate at 1.6. One of the wildest stats in the NFL last year is that Bo Nixon week 4 on was 1.4, which is insanely good. And we'll talk about that at another time. So it's pretty impressive with the weak quarterback play that surrounded the Giants last year that Malik Neighbors was a monster. 109 catches for 1,204 yards and 7 touchdowns. They have a young backfield led by Tyrone Tracy and Cam Scatterbo. They believe in Tyrone Tracy Jr. very much. The offensive line was terrible last year. It graded out 28th, And all they need is Andrew Thomas to stay healthy, and it can be improved. Will he stay healthy? Has he ever stayed healthy? Very difficult to bank on him staying healthy. Their defense ranked 24th in the NFL, and it needs to be better. We know what's good about them. Their front seven is very dangerous, absolutely electric. Dexter Lawrence is the NFL's highest graded defensive tackle over the past 3 years. That edge rotation, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, Chauncey Golston, and then Abdul Carter, third overall pick out of Penn State. Dangerous. But their secondary struggled last year. And the person getting most of the criticism is their 2023 first-round pick, Deonte Banks, who was supposed to kind of fix all of this. So they bring in Paulson Adebo. I mean, I don't expect too much from him, honestly. But he's a vet, and he could calm everything down. They bring in safety Javon Holland from Miami, Port Coquitlam, BC-born Javon Holland. Take it away for us here, Troy. 5.5 wins, minus 130 to the over. What are your thoughts on the New York Giants this year?
Oh, I'm going back and looking through some stuff here on this team because I'm interested in the Giants. And as you talked, you brought up some pressing points for me. Brian Daboll is a coach I believe in. We talked about him last season as being one of the better coaches in the leagues. But I truly believe, based on the player sentiment, what they, how they communicate to the press, it's not just what they say, because a lot of times it's almost scripted because players say the same thing. It's like they're on robot mode when they're talking to the media, but you could tell that there was a little bit something different. You could tell there's a little bit more love for Brian Daboll from these players. So that's something that I truly believe in. I think he's been kind of handcuffed by his roster for the most part. I look at Mike Kafka, and he's not a guy that I'm particularly fond of. And Bowen, he's a stop the run, first and foremost type of guy. Generate pressure with 4, which he's going to be able to do, and play conservative zone behind. I think this defense is in good shape. It really comes down to the offense. And their offensive line has been terrible over the past few years, especially with Thomas out of the lineup. And I'm kind of coming full circle back because when when I first broke down this Giants team, I first started, creating my profile for this Giants team. I put them towards the bottom of the league. Then I did the rest of the positional groups. I put the Giants in the bottom 5. Then I did the rest of the positional groups, and I was like, oh, I kind of like the Giants. Let me go back and see what the problems are with this team. I go back to the offensive line. I'm trying to make a case for them. It is really hard to make a case for them. So, I'm going to omit some of these points that I had on this offensive line because it is somewhat biased. I try to make a case for this team. This offensive line does not have much upside outside of Thomas. Now that Thomas is in the lineup, we know he's high quality left tackle, the most important lineman on the field. And he's going to drag the rest of the offensive line with him when he's on the field. But you cannot stop what we're going to see with this offensive line. I guess Michael Schmitz Jr., being in his 3rd season, might be able to take another step forward. He did take a step forward from 23 to 24. So maybe he does take another step forward. He can kind of solidify there in the middle at center, but I just don't know about this offense at all because I am so low, and I faded this guy until the cows came home last season. Russell Wilson is not that man. Yes, he is a deep ball. Yes, he throws they call it the moon ball because he throws it so high. But if you're a good receiver, if you have a quality receiver chasing that deep ball down, it's very advantageous when the quarterback puts it in a spot like Russell Wilson does, and he does it consistently, and he's done it for years, even going back to Wisconsin. So I expect we could still see that, but who does he have now catching these balls? Malik Neighbors, who's 6 foot tall. He's more of a speed guy, not a jump ball type of player, not a 50-50 ball, 50-50 type of guy. Now he is very talented, so obviously he's going to be able to come down with some of those, maybe most of those. Maybe I'm underestimating him. Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson. They're having a little bit change. Theo Johnson at tight end. I don't know if this offense has literally anything favorable going for them, except for Malik Neighbors in a backfield that I'm fully on board with. It's funny, you think about running backs and backfields on the offense. Like there's 5 that are clearly head and shoulders above everybody. Then there's maybe 2 or 3 that are clearly on the other end of the spectrum, terrible, way worse than the rest of the NFL. And then most of the teams, 25 teams, fall in the middle. And there's really very few, very small margin. So can't put much equity in that. Obviously, the defense, you touched on it, the defensive line is amazing. I think the linebackers are great in the box, or it can be great. I think the secondary is a very dangerous group. Man, it's really tough because I look at this defense and I think of a team that I want to bet on, but I look at Russell Wilson under center, this offensive line, and history in New York, and I cannot get behind this Giants team. So I'm out on futures, but I will be interested in seeing what they put together because they could be a sleeper. If I'm betting anybody else in this division, it's the New York Giants.
It's interesting. I mean, if you think that they have a chance in this division at a 5.5 win total, it doesn't make that over 5.5 wins appealing.
It does make 5.5 wins appealing.
I find it appealing as well. I certainly don't want to go into the year with this because if they go 0-5, Russell Wilson won't start anymore, and Jackson Dart will get his opportunity, and they won't care, and they'll just want the highest draft picks possible.
I wish they would go with Jackson Dart straight away, but you know what? That's probably the play on this team. I think Russell Wilson is a flop. If he's going to flop, they're going to flop as a team. And Jackson Dart will get inserted. People will be all out on this team after watching them maybe get blown out. Who knows? I don't think the defense might not let that happen, especially early in the season. Because what you see with defenses is, like you did with the Jets last season, people start throwing in the towel when they know they're trash. They know they're a broken team. They're not going to put in the effort. But early in the season, and then you insert Jackson Dart, maybe he instills some life and people come back to the table to play, or they continue to play in this case. I think I would wait on this future.
Well, I agree with AM. The first thing I thought with the 5.5 was that it was baiting me to bet it. So I agree with that. My dude says Bobby Okereke is one of the best middle linebackers in the NFL. I don't think he's been in a while, and I was a big fan of his.
Who said that?
My dude in the chat at Okereke. I just have not seen that from him in the last couple of years, and I was initially a big fan of his. I don't think they're strong at linebacker.
I agree with that. But if the defensive line in front of him is going to command so much, I mean, how many defensive linemen were injured last year? Lawrence was out, Burns was out most of the season.
Burns was gone.
That's going to make it a lasso toss. That's going to make it way more difficult for any linebacker. But put an insane front, a healthy front, like this PFF gives them a grade of 3. I think they could be number 1.
Yeah. And that makes them appealing to back, but I think I can gravitate towards the New York Giants and unders without betting they're over 5.5. And I feel like that, is what I'm going to do here. That is the NFC East. So at this point, I don't think there's anything wrong with putting the Eagles plus 700 in your pocket. I don't really want to right now. And the Commanders under 9.5 that Troy moved on, that Coin is on, that others in the chat are on, I find that appealing. The Cowboys, I guess I'm going to stay away from, but I do want to go up against the feeling of the public that they're just a fade. And I do feel like that 5.5 is bait, honestly, because the Giants healthy right off the top of the year could do some damage. What kind of damage? I'm not sure of. Let's head on to the NFC North, Troy. And we start with the Detroit Lions. So we opened the show with the Eagles, and now we're at the Lions, the other team you had futures on from the start of the year last year. 15-2 went to Detroit Lions. I mean, we talked about win total patterns with the Giants. Campbell enters his 5th season as coach. He's seen his win total climb from 3 to 9, 12, 15. So that tells you that the perfect season awaits. Obviously, I don't believe that. And their win total at 9.5. Now, their 9.5 win total is minus 150 to the over and plus 120 to the under. But Dougie Wise is right. When I saw this 9.5, I thought, oh, God. How many cappers are going to hammer that? How can a team that won 15 games last year, have the books kind of opening up their arms if you want to bet them to win 10 games. I was astonished. And look at Talk Sports with JT. He's on the under 9.5, which is very, very interesting and ballsy. And I was just shocked at the 9.5, and I want to break it down with you guys and talk it out. 5th season for Dan Campbell. We have John Morton in his first season. Ben Johnson, of course, left to coach the Bears. Kelvin Shepard in his first season because Aaron Glenn also left to coach the Jets. So we have the offensive coordinators gone here. Campbell says that this is the best team he's had in his 5 years. And if as we've gotten to know Campbell, I imagine he'll say that every year. You know, that's what he wants his players to hear. And I don't know how much truth there is behind it. Last year, the Lions were the number 1 seed in the NFC, but had to deal with constant injuries. And Campbell is such a great lifter of spirits. He just kept everybody rolling, but their defense just couldn't hold up late in the year. They were the highest scoring offense in the league last year, and they returned 20 of 22 starters. And John Morton comes over from spending 2 years as the passing game coordinator for the Broncos. He was a special assistant under Ben Johnson in 2021. The offense is stacked. You have Goff at quarterback. You have 2,000-yard receivers in Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams. A tight end in Sammy Laporta, who has the most receptions for a tight end in the first 2 seasons, in a tight end's first 2 seasons in NFL history. Goff started all 17 games. He threw for 4,629 yards, 37 touchdowns, and had 12 interceptions. Gibbs and Montgomery combined for 3,016 scrimmage yards and 32 touchdowns. So let's talk about the problems. First off, Frank Ragnow's retirement was a blow, but how many games can you count on him to be healthy for during a season? They lose Kevin Zeitler to the Titans. You can't take those 2 guys off your line and get better. Now they still have Penny Sewell. Their defense was decimated with injuries last year, and Aiden Hutchinson is healthy and back in action, and they re-signed Marcus Davenport to play that big edge role opposite of Hutchinson. With Hutchinson in the lineup, the Lions led the league in PFF pass rush grade. After his injury, they were 29th. This is the craziest stat for the Detroit Lions last year, Troy. In 5 games, Hutchinson had 45 quarterback pressures. That tied for the most by a Lion over the entire season.
And you know offenses are scheming to block him specifically. It's insane.
If this defense is healthy, they're monsters. You know, like at this point,
because they line up McNeil right next to him, and it's like, what are we going to do?
And you bring in DJ Reader. I don't know how many snaps he's going to see in a game, you know, but if he's how many games can you expect him to be healthy for? You got Alex Anzalone and Jack Campbell at linebacker. Kirby Joseph had 9 interceptions last year alongside Brian Branch.
And Jack Campbell's worth it. He's worth a conversation too. He's a dog.
He's a monster. And they have the 2nd toughest schedule in the NFL. And if you ask Dan Campbell about it, what's he going to say? I love it. I want it. Take it away, Troy, the Detroit Lions.
This is really tough. Really, really tough team to cap. I'm smiling because I'm just thinking about football right now. And NFL football is making me so excited. It's truly the most competitive sport, in my opinion, just because I feel like there is so much parity. The margins are so thin in this game. I think the losses of the 2 coaching, the 2 coordinators is absolutely massive. You know, I don't want to just completely – that has to be said right off the bat. It has to be the foundation, the root of everything we talk about with this team because it's massive. You lose Ben Johnson, you lose Aaron Glenn. Like those 2 coordinators showed out. They absolutely showed out for what they were given. Obviously, you know, it's really easy to perform as an offensive coordinator when you have that type of offensive line. You have all the assets around them, and you have a quarterback that knows how to execute. But that's where everything comes back. So you talk about the coaching. I don't know what to expect from John Morton, to be honest. He's going from catering to a rookie quarterback in Denver to a seasoned veteran in Jared Goff. I don't know what that transition looks like for him. And Kelvin Shepard, he's a linebacker coach. And I actually like that. I think that linebacker coaches have a history of successful defensive play calling. And because he understands how the pieces fit as a linebacker, you have to know what the secondary's job is. You have to know what you understand that you're in the sandwich. You have to feel everything around you, right? You get a little lettuce, a little tomato, you got the bread. Hopefully you toast it. It tastes better. So yeah, I like Kelvin Shepherd. I think it's a good hire. I don't know what to expect from John Morton. The offensive line from first, the best top, when I say the best, for me, and I was actually talking with Moose about this on Saturday, I tier teams. Like, I'm not going to try to beat the books and try to build a bottoms up approach, trying to grade out each individual player on the field. I don't think that's well worth my time. I spent way too much time trying to do that. You can't compete with the bookies. I tier teams. And I think that this offensive line went from top tier 1 to tier 3, tier 4 average, right, out of 5. They lost Brent Ragnow. They lost Zietler. They still have the best right tackle in the game in Penny Sewell. They're strong at left tackle too. But they're, well below average now in the interior, and that's a problem. That's an absolute problem for a team that like to run the ball in between the tackles with Gibbs and Montgomery. And this running back, backfield is probably the best combination in the league. I think Gibbs is probably the most dynamic offensive player in the league. He has home run ability. Like, seeing Montgomery get more snaps and more carries than him last season, maybe it's just to keep him fresh. I think it makes sense to have it. There needs to be committee in the backfield, or else you're going to run into injuries. You're going to run into problems. This is the best committee you'll see in the NFL. They have all the receiving options you could expect on an NFL team. St. Brown, Jameson, you got a great tight end in Laporta, but how much of this offense can be allocated to the offensive coordinator that is now out of town in division, out of town, but not too far. Because, I think about Jared Goff. This is the biggest, trying to nail down what we could expect for Jared Goff and how he pairs with John Morton. That's the biggest question, because we've seen what the product was behind an elite offensive line and one of the most brilliant minds in Ben Johnson in the NFL. Without those 2 flags in his cap, it's going to be really interesting to see how he responds. And how much of his success, right? Because obviously he wasn't able to play at that elite caliber to actually win a Super Bowl. I think he was kind of there over the past few seasons. But how much of that is allocated to the indoor, playing indoors so much, and how much of that could be allocated to Ben Johnson? And I think Ben Johnson was a huge piece of that. After studying him a little bit more, I can't wait to talk about him. The offense is going to be good. I believe the offense is going to be good. The defense is going to be elite if they could stay healthy. You touched on it. You hammered it home. Hutchinson and McNeil, 2 of the best young linemen in the game. Hutchinson is the only player in the league that I think has the ability to impact a game like Myles Garrett coming off the edge. The question becomes, can they stay healthy? If healthy and they can return to form, this could be the best front in the NFL. Solid linebacker core with Jack Campbell, Anzalone. I think those 2 are solid and complementary too. In the secondary, how could you not like what you see in the secondary with Branch, Joseph, Terry, and Arnold? I think Terry and Arnold, he was a rookie last season. I think he has Pro Bowl potential. PFF says he's a bum. I disagree. I've seen some glimpses of absolute glory from the kid, especially up against some of the best receivers in the NFL. There's 3 questions you have to answer when you're looking at this team. Will the D-line be able to stay healthy and return to prior form? How big of an impact was Ben Johnson to the Goff's performance and this offense's performance? And will the interior offensive line be at least average? If the answer is yes to all 3, then plus 175 to win the division, minus 175 to make the playoffs. It's solid. It's extremely solid. I think the books are telling us at 9.5 that something's going to go wrong. These teams, it's probably due for a little 1-year bear market. I'm out on the lines this year, but I'm very interested in watching and seeing what they do.
And with the minus 150 to the over at 9.5, you can easily build a 10. If that makes it easier for people to get to the window, just using the -1 calculator. Harold Williams took the over 10.5, so that just flips. That's just plus 120 to the over and minus 150 to the under at 10.5.
Can you post that in the chat? I'd like to copy and paste that, because I recently fucked up one of my lines that I thought I had right.
With the -1 calculator?
Yeah. I took basically under 1.5 and under 2.5 in the MLB first 3, and screwed that one up. So
yeah, it's crucial. It's crucial here. I'll pop it in the chat. And,
I just want to automate it. I just, sometimes I get stubborn, like, oh, I got this. But
I like the flat 10s and 9s win totals in NFL. I like keeping the push kind of alive. It depends what your unit size is for futures, but mine's a little bigger and kind of like having the push in play. Brady said, had to leave the fantasy draft for a second. Overreaction to Lions O-line. Glasgow has played plenty of center. DJ Reed is the most under the radar free agent signing in the NFL.
He is.
Jenkins agreeing with that. That is. Do you want to finish off with the Lions before we move on to the Vikes?
Birdie, finish that up, man. Finish that fantasy draft up. Come on, man. We need you in chat.
Minnesota Vikings next up for us. 14-3 last year. Good God. 25-1 to win the Super Bowl. They're plus 325 to win the division. And they're 9.5 is plus 110 to the over. Minus 140 to the under. KOC. Kevin O'Connell enters his 4th season as head coach. Wes Phillips enters his 3rd season as offensive coordinator, and Brian Flores enters his 3rd season as defensive coordinator. Sean Pulliam in the house. Great to see you, Sharon. KOC, what did he do last year? He won Coach of the Year. Good God. 14 wins with that Viking squad was spectacular. And then this year, the market predicts no more than 9. How things change. Sam Darnold is gone. J.J. McCarthy is a big question mark, but he's surrounded by talent. Justin Jefferson caught 103 passes for 1,533 yards, 10 touchdowns. WR2, Jordan Addison suspended for the first 3 games of the season because he violated the league's substance abuse policy from that July 2024 DUI. He'll be gone for 3 games. Aaron Jones, what a season. I often wonder when a good player, a really good player, switches teams in division to a rival and then becomes elite. Can he do that again in year 2? I often question it, but he was spectacular last year. Better than I've ever seen him play. 255 carries for 1,138 yards, 5 touchdowns. Then he catches 51 passes for 408 yards and 2 touchdowns. You get a full year of TJ Hawkinson. He missed the first 7 weeks last year in his return from the ACL. And they fortify the offensive line. Will Fry's $88 million contract. They have Ryan Kelly. They draft left guard Donovan Jackson out of Minnesota in the 1st round. They need Christian Darrisaw to recover fully from the torn ACL and MCL in his left knee. Brian Flores enters year 3 with this blitz-heavy defense. And we talked about it so often last year, and it worked so well. You had Greenard with 12 sacks, Van Ginkel with 11.5, and then they bring in Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave. There are question marks in the secondary, but Byron Murphy was excellent last year. And Harrison Smith continues to play at a high level at 36 years old. How long can he continue that? Talk Sports with JT is on the under 9.5. Dougie Y says McCarthy is a bust. Here we go. And AM says, I guess what I've heard is true. JJ McCarthy's a plug and play Sam Darnold. And Coin is leaning to the over 9.5 wins. Says that he thinks the quarterback will be fine. His head coach will put him in the right positions as he did for Darnold. I think the one sitting and getting reps helps JJ. The 1 year sitting and getting reps helps JJ. Take it away for us here, Troy, the Minnesota Vikings.
A lot to unpack here because if you remember, rewind the past 2 seasons, had very successful seasons, but the Vikings was I was completely wrong about this team. I think I'm finally drinking the Kool-Aid. Kevin O'Connell, absolute stud. He was never a doubt in my mind. I believe he's one of the best coaches in the league, hands down, based on what he's been able to get out of his roster. Last year exemplifies just how good he is at coaching, just how important coaching is with Sam Darnold at quarterback, who I think we know who Sam Darnold is. And being able to get where they were last year is just extremely impressive. Wes Phillips, he's a pawn. Like Kevin O'Connell is really the one offensively who's driving the coaching staff. And Brian Flores, as far as I'm concerned, I wanted to throw this guy. Like, I was like, this cannot last. He's masking terrible talent. He's lucky, essentially, was my thesis on Brian Flores. I'm going to throw that out after watching. And I did. I started to change tides last season around week 6 with Brian Flores. And that was after, a full season of being wrong. But I think he's one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL. Blitzes more than any defense did in the past decade. He does it to mask some of the talent, the lack of talent he's had, but at the same time, it's part of his scheme, and he's able to implement it better than anybody else, especially better than the other coaches that blitz at a high rate, like Bowles with the Bucs. You can see there's way more nuance. There's way more deviations with the Vikings than there is with the Bucs. He's consistently able to produce turnovers. I thought that would regress in 2024 after 2023, and they repeated their success. Their offensive line, solid. Probably the offense is solid. The strongest suit for this offense is their offensive line, and they benefit heavily from a scheme that involves heavy use of play action, right? And it's part of the scheme, right? You want a coach that's going to be able to take the pressure off your offensive line, and they've done that with play action. The running back situation is solid, in my opinion. Aaron Jones, he's getting old. He's 30 years old, but Ty Chandler and Jordan Mason, they do offer some diversity in the backfield. Then you got some elite wide receivers with Justin Jefferson. You got TJ Hawkinson. You got Naylor. You got Addison. These guys are all good quality receivers. I don't know what to do with McCarthy and where I think he is. Right now, if I would say he's probably 20th or less, like he's bottom third of the league. But he did run a pro style offense. I think that they looked at McCarthy, what he was capable of doing, the offense he ran at Michigan, the offense he ran at Nazareth, which is actually in my backyard. It's a south side suburb of Chicago. So I'm very familiar with what kind of offense he was running in high school and watching him play. I think that, O'Connell's going to be able to do something with him. I think they see something. How could you not trust him at this point after what he did with Sammy Darnold? And, and you look at the defense, all the defensive categories get an immediate boost. I think that you look at the defensive line, the linebackers. I think the linebackers are actually probably one of the strongest groups in the NFL with Cashman. Probably one of the best linebackers on planet Earth. I don't care what PFF grades him. I actually don't know what they even got him at. He's a great open field tackler. Yeah, he has enough speed to play in coverage, to keep up with slot receivers and man. And he fits the Florida scheme perfectly because he's one of the best pass rushing linebackers in the league. I think that this team is a team I want to get involved with, but I have not moved yet, Jim.
Yeah, I want to as well. I was taken aback by the 9.5 heavily juiced to the under.
It's the exact opposite. You got 9.5 Lions juiced to the over, 9.5 Vikings juiced to the under. This is why I hate futures and why I don't think there's a big edge in betting a lot of futures, because of this exact situation right here. This is a perfect example. Go ahead, Jim.
I hear that. Big thank you to Big O, gifting 5 Pub Sports Radio memberships. It means a ton to us, Big O. Thank you so much for your support, my friend. What's your expectation of JJ McCarthy this year?
I think that I don't know who was in chat was talking about how it was probably good for him to sit out the first year. Obviously, you don't want it to be because of a devastating injury. But I think that the kid is a winner at heart for sure. Very highly competitive. Same type of demeanor that Tom Brady has, in my opinion. I'm not making parallels to Tom Brady. I'm just talking about his demeanor. I don't mean he could perform on the field. I think that the offensive scheme, I think that O'Connell being his offensive coordinator, the use of play action is in the offensive line. I think he's actually in a good situation. I think he's going to have I don't know. I don't know what the sentiment is, but it's good to start reading through chat and see what people think. People think he's a bust. He could be. I'm not saying he's not a bust, but I'm interested in this team. Coaching alone has got me interested because they got some pieces on this team that I like.
That is your Minnesota Vikings. We stay in the NFC North for our next squad. The Green Bay Packers making a lot of noise with the pickup of Micah Parsons. 11-6 last year. They are 12-1 now to win the Super Bowl. They have leapfrogged Minnesota. They're plus 175 to win the division. And their win total is now 10.5, juice to the under. Matt LaFleur's 7th season as head coach Adam Stenovich's 4th season as offensive coordinator, and Jeff Hafley's 2nd season as defensive coordinator. Obviously, there's a ton of buzz with the Packers right now after the Parsons trade. This Packers team was 5th in total defense last year and 8th in sacks without him. Since 2021, Parsons leads all qualified edge defenders in pressure rate and ranks second only to Myles Garrett in pass rush grade, win rate, and PFF wins above replacement. In 2024, he again only trailed Garrett in pass rush grade among edge defenders with at least 300 snaps. He joins Rashawn Gary and Devontae Wyatt on the pass rush. Edgerrin Cooper is an elite linebacker. There are questions at corner. They have Keyshawn Nixon. They signed Nate Hobbs after a poor season. Now they have all-pro safety Xavier McKinney. Matt LaFleur has a very impressive 67-33 regular season record as coach, but he's just 3-5 in the postseason. Is this the year that he changes that? Last year, they couldn't beat the best teams in the league. They went 1-5 in the NFC North. What is Jordan Love going to do this year? He threw for 4,159 yards, 32 touchdowns, 11 interceptions in his first full season as a starter. It feels like he didn't take the next step. Last year, he threw for 3,389 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions in 2 less games. Same amount of interceptions, 7 less touchdowns, and about 800 less yards. He ranked 39th. This is the crazy part of Jordan Love that I want to study more this year. He ranked 39th out of 43 qualified quarterbacks in the rate of his throws going 10 to 19 yards, 16.2%. So he's either going very short or going deep, and his wide receiving core has been inconsistent. We've been waiting for this young group to get better and better, but now Christian Watson's recovering from a torn ACL. He expects to be back in November. Jaden Reed is being counted on to take the next step. He's got a stress fracture in his foot. He thinks he can play in week 1. And there's other people saying he's not playing.
Who is that? Jordan Love?
Jaden Reed.
Oh, Jaden Reed. Okay.
55 receptions, 857
Jordan
yards.
Love's got an injury too, doesn't he?
Jordan Love does, but he says that there's no problem here. They're both saying they're going to play. Everybody around Jordan Love saying he's going to play. Everybody around Jaden Reed saying he's not going to play. So keep that in mind here as we get closer. They need to get more. Oh, one thing about Reed too. This is the problem with Reed, just to plant the seed here, is that this stress fracture in a foot, it just doesn't go away. It just doesn't fully go away. And if you look at the x-rays, I took a look at the x-rays, this is going to be a problem this year. This guy was averaging 15.6 yards per catch. He's a deep threat. They're going to need to get so much out of Dontavian Wicks. They drafted Texas wide receiver Matthew Golden in the first round. They have TCU wideout Savion Williams, so they've got skill. Josh Jacobs was a monster in his first season in Green Bay, 1,329 rushing yards and 15 touchdowns. Tucker Kraft caught 50 passes for 707 yards and 7 touchdowns. They fortify their offensive line by signing Aaron Banks. Elgin Jenkins, Pro Bowl guards, moving to center. Great to see you, Christopher Tatum. Welcome back. Football is back. Dennis Garcia says he thinks Green Bay goes like 10-7. 10-7. Right now, the under 10.5 available at -130. What are your expectations of these Green Bay Packers, Troy?
I think you bring up some good points. I'll get to them in a minute. Jordan Love, we'll talk about him, but start with the coaching. Matt LaFleur, obviously one of the most respected coaches in the league, connects with his players. That's what I want to know. Is he connecting with the players? Does he understand his players? Is he going to be able to get his players like the Lions, like Dan Campbell? Those players would die for this type of coach, right? Matt LaFleur is not that to that extent, not that level, but he's obviously one of the best coaches in the league. He's going to have his team in the game almost all the time. And Jeff Hafley, after watching some more tape on him, and I had to go back and pop on a few games in the middle of the season, because I actually love what he's doing. Single high safety, mostly man coverage, mix in cover 3, press up on the outside. I think he has a well-balanced because when I'm looking at the Packers, I'm trying to understand what their defense is going to look like, because I do think that this offense is going to be able turn into something that's competent this season. The offensive line is middle of the pack right now. I'm all about the trenches. My weight on the trenches, offensive and defensive lines, is 2 times that of the wide receiver position. Not quite the cornerback and the secondary, right, from a defensive side, but it's what, the trenches are where it's at. That's where I'm going to make my money, and that's where I want to understand the best. Zach Tom took off last season for this offensive line. Should be one of the best tackles in the NFL. Outside of that, there's a lot of questions. But with any great coach, with any dominant player like Tom is on that front, I expect quality to come from this offensive line. Josh Jacobs is one of the best backs in the league, but there's not a lot of depth behind him. That's definitely a concern because you want to see a combo in the backfield. And the wide receiver position, just from left to right, they have so much depth. Dobbs, Reed, Wicks, Watson, they're all caliber players. And I feel like they're very complementary players, receivers as well. Plenty of options for LaFleur, plenty of options for this offense. So Jordan Love, what can we expect? You talked about the intermediate passing game. And honestly, that's what I think is the right approach to football. You want to throw it deep. You want to be very polarized. I think polarization in not only football, but other sports and gambling, polarization is where you want to be. No in between. You're deep or you're short. The intermediate, the 2-point shot in basketball is going away. Even though at one point with Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, the game is innovative. I actually like that approach. Now, I don't know if it reflects solid offensive production because you'd like to think, right? If you're deep or short, likely you're playing you're basically, you're successful. You're having a good EPA at first and second down. I haven't checked into that, but I didn't notice this metric didn't pop out to me, but it's a really good call out. It kind of demands me to study this more, the situation with this offense, because that's honestly how I would draw up an offense, is to be polarized. You want to throw it deep, you want to throw it short, you want to keep the sticks in distance, second and short, second and intermediate. Like, you want to be in a good situation. So I actually like that. And I think he has probably the strongest arm in the NFL, Jordan Love, at least from what I've seen, being able to throw it outside the numbers to the far side of the field with accuracy and on a bullet. We've seen that from this kid. We know he can make those throws. We know he can throw it deep. But I think his head got a little bit too big after all that success he had in his first year as starter. I think that's what we've seen. I think we probably see him bounce back. I don't know what the type of character he really is at heart. Like, we know that Jalen Hurts, he had to prove his character early in his career in college. So I don't know what to expect from Jordan Love, but I do think he's probably in the top 10 quarterbacks, in my opinion. And I think he can make a lot of throws that other quarterbacks cannot. And the defensive line, thank God they got Micah Parsons, because without Micah Parsons, they couldn't apply pressure. Nobody on the Packers defense graded out above average against the run game. And their best asset was Rashawn Gary, who, Birdie called out, is going to make the run defense better in Dallas. And I think that losing him is going to be a problem for this defensive line. But this is an interesting number at 10.5. When you're looking at 9.5 for the Lions, 9.5 for the Vikings, and this Packers team is catching at 10.5. I mean, all this aside, X's and O's, matchups, goddamn coaching, personnel, I don't give a shit about a lot of this stuff, to be honest, because this number is strong at 10.5, in my opinion. Very strong, especially when you look at the roster and you don't see them really standing out, right? Like, their offensive line, middle of the pack, from left to right. Zach Tom, okay, he's good, but is he going to be able to repeat that season? I don't know. The wide receivers, there's really no headliner. It's all a bunch of guys who are good but not great. The quarterback, Jordan Love, just had a really down season this last year. The defensive line is not. They were, before Micah Parsons, they were bottom 10 clearly. The secondary, definitely lower than 15. I got them between 18 and 22 right now. 2 dogs at safety, but completely depleted at cornerback. Like, there's no unit on the offense or defense that really sticks out. So what is this 10.5 telling me? Because I'm missing something. And There's no way I'm taking an under on the Packers in this situation. And it only makes me want to bet them more because the lineup, the roster looks middle of the road. Not good enough to compete for a Super Bowl, but not bad enough to completely rebuild and, go for a first pick in the draft. I think Jordan Love could butt into a superstar. I've seen it. I've seen his tape. Like, this kid has all the things you want in a quarterback as a franchise. I'm just kind of talking this out off the cuff right now, just because it's so telling to me at 10.5. Jimmy, I'm going to send it back to you because I'm kind of stuck here.
I think that the public hammers the most exciting offseason moves.
I know that's a problem too. That's a problem because without the Micah Parsons, like the public, they're coming in right now in the pack. And that's not the reason I like the pack. I like the pack because I think Jordan Love can do things 99.99% of people on earth can't do.
In all sports, you take the win total under for the team that made the most exciting offseason moves, and it's a gift. Look at in the difference. Look at in the NHL. Look at the Nashville Predators last year. It was an absolute gift. And every season, you look at the team who's made the most exciting moves, and you fade them. Fade their win total.
Really good point. Where can I find where this line was? Because I don't have it on my my write-ups here. But I would like to see what this line moved to. Did it go from 9? Were all these teams in the NFC?
They were all 9.5.
9.5.
Yeah.
It's really tough, man. Really tough. Because even then, you look at the roster relative before. Let's talk about before, when they were all 9.5. What does this team have that the Lions don't? They didn't get blown out in the, against the Commanders in the conference championship or in the playoffs. But I don't know, man. It just don't seem right to even be flat with those teams. It doesn't seem right.
But that was all health. It was all health. I mean, the Lions were a juggernaut. The question is, with these guys coming back, can they stay healthy? It's funny. Teams don't get healthier. They never get healthier. You'll always hear that, wait till he comes back, wait till they come back. And maybe they come back, maybe they get hurt again, or more injuries pile up. The whole idea that a team gets healthier later in the season, it's a myth.
It's a farce.
I don't. And now you have these guys on the Lions. This division is spectacular.
Stay away. That's probably the message here: is stay away from this division. It's probably the message, especially futures. Like, it's hard to get an edge, and if you're betting in this division, futures, like, you're probably putting in a losing bet. Even if you win, I don't give a shit if you win. I'm talking about over the course of 1,000 bets.
I want the under 10.5. I want the under 10.5. And I'm curious to see what I think this line will keep moving. I think the over 10.5.
Tell me why outside of that splash move, outside of like the Cowboys, for example, like you want to bet the Cowboys because you want to fade the public sentiment, but you need more than that.
How many games here? We have Jordan Love coming in from thumb surgery. He's got lower body issues that affected him last year. How many games is Malik Willis going to start this year for the Packers? 3? What's the over-under on games Malik Willis starts? Is it 2.5? Is that what Vegas would give you? Malik Willis starts 2.5 games. Pick them either side.
I feel like they give you a 1.5.
I would take the over. I would bet it right now. Jordan Love has not been able to, and he also gets more beat up as the season goes on too.
Tough schedule at the beginning and end too.
I am interested in. Look, I'm not sitting here saying the Packers aren't going to be a good football team. They're going to be a good football team. This division is extraordinarily tough. And why don't we talk about the fourth team in the division, and then we'll kind of circle back here. Let's talk about your Chicago Bears.
Oh, they're not my Chicago Bears, man. They're not. The Cubs, my Chicago Cubs, but I'm not a Bears fan, man. Especially after they cut me. You can't be a fan of a team that cuts you.
Hey, the opportunity you had was one that only the tiniest percentile of athletes will ever get the opportunity to have. Chicago Bears 5-12 last year. Their Super Bowl is plus 4,000, 40 to 1. Their division plus 550, and their win total is 7.5. Now the 8.5 is the same number. It's just opposite. The overs plus 130 and the unders minus 160. Here, the 7.5, the overs minus 160, the unders plus 130. This would be a spot where you'd use the -1 calculator, even if you want the over or if you want the under, whatever you would prefer here. We have Ben Johnson in his first season as head coach, Declan Doyle in his first season as offensive coordinator, and then Dennis Allen in his first season as the Bears defensive coordinator coming over from New Orleans. D. Jenkins says, what you guys are saying is fair, and it could just come down to head-to-head record between these teams. Have to consider Vegas has Packers favored in week 1 over the Lions, even with Lions being public. Yeah, oh yeah. That's why this is the way Troy and I set it up, so that we'd have Sunday, both conferences, futures, and then Tuesday, week 1. And it's all marinating, it's all soaking in, and we have time to talk about all of it. So, Ben Johnson, fresh off running the number 1 offense in the league, looks to work his magic with Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. Last year, Williams started all 17 games. He played well. Threw for 3,451 yards, 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He also ran 81 times for 489 yards. If Jaden Daniels didn't exist, we'd be talking about what a great rookie season Caleb Williams had. Now, he was running for his life, which even goes to show that he had a really strong rookie season. The Bears allowed a league-high 68 sacks. 68. So Ryan Poles, what's he do? He trades for Pro Bowl guard Joe Thuney from the Chiefs and Jonah Jackson from the Rams. He signs the top free agent center available, Drew Dahlman, who has been dealing with some injury issues of his own. So they're trying to protect Williams. DJ Moore and Rome Odunze are a great 1-2 punch out wide. Moore had a career high 98 receptions for 966 yards and 6 touchdowns. And last year's 9th overall pick, Odunze, caught 54 passes for 734 yards and 3 touchdowns. So he joins the great legend Mike Ditka as the only Bears rookies with at least 50 receptions and 700 yards. They drafted Michigan tight end Colston Loveland in the first round and Missouri wide receiver Luther Burden, 39th overall. Their running game is weak. I'm just astonished that they come in with DeAndre Swift. I mean, we know he can't play smash mouth football. I can't comprehend that that Poles is going to do all these things, make all these moves, but not fix this running game. Chicago was last in the league in yards after contact last year. That's a problem. That's an enormous problem that Poles doesn't seem to care about. They graded out 26th in rushing. I was surprised by that. Now, DeAndre Swift and Ben Johnson have worked together before in Detroit. Dennis Allen coming over to coach the defense is interesting. 23 years of NFL experience, 6 as a head coach, 8 as a defensive coordinator. They signed 2-time Pro Bowl tackle Grady Jarrett to help out Montez Sweat. Sweat's production was disappointing. 5.5 sacks in his first season with the Bears. The secondary anchored by Pro Bowler Jalen Johnson, and he's been very good. Over the past 2 years, he earned an 89.4 PFF grade. That's second amongst all cornerbacks behind only Trent McDuffie. They extended Kyler Gordon. I've been a big Kyler Gordon fan. If these guys can stay healthy, this defense can be very strong. I can't get past they're not fixing the running game. I can't get past it. I mean, unless you think Rashawn Johnson is going to take over and be a huge difference. I can't get past it. Dennis Garcia says Allen's a terrible head coach, but a great defensive coordinator. Take it away for us here, Troy. Chicago Bears.
I can get into this one a little bit, and there's a lot of reasons why I'm exposed to a lot of this information. My dad is diehard Chicago, mostly diehard Cubs, but Bears and Bulls definitely follow suit. Hawks, he's a big hockey guy. Surprisingly, Jimmy, you would love to have a conversation with him about the Blackhawks, I'm sure. Probably not, because the Blackhawks are a disgrace. But the Bears probably the best coaching acquisition in the offseason, Ben Johnson. I mean, obviously he had a great offensive line, but his impact is undeniable. I feel like his scheme transcended his offensive line. It was way above par for what you see in modern day NFL. I think his impact is going to be undeniable. His ability to make Jared Goff feel confident and comfortable was obvious. His preseason with Caleb, I remember a few series where I seen some stuff that was just absolutely incredible from a play calling standpoint. Especially there was one play where he replaced his tight end with a receiver through motion. Just a complete mind fuck of the defense is what he's able to do pretty consistently. And I think he, at first glance, I thought he was fully capable of catering to Caleb Williams in this offense. However, my guy, Mark, I hope, Mark, if you're in chat right now, please step up, man. I want to see your name in chat. I don't think there's a guy that I talk to in Discord that's basically in the background, always lurking in your chats. Jimmy watches your shows. He don't say much, but he brought something that was very concerning about this offense and how this pairs with Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson. And you can see when you watch Ben Johnson's interviews post-game, he's not very happy with where the offense is at. He's not happy with where Caleb Williams is at. I think it's because part of the problem, one of the main problems is being under center. Think about Ben Johnson with the Lions, and I only have numbers from 2023. But Jared Goff, under Ben Johnson's leadership, he yielded 9.0 yards per attempt under center compared to 7.0 yards per attempt from a shotgun set. That's insane. And if you think back to what the Lions did last year, and I don't have the numbers to actually quantify, but if you watch, a lot of their EPA, a lot of their success was generated from under center. Caleb Williams has proven that he is uncomfortable and ineffective under center over the past few years. We actually seen it in preseason this year. He tried to make an exchange on a handoff, fumbled it. He does not like being under center. He wasn't under center in college. He wasn't under center in high school. He took all his snaps from shotgun. Now you have a coach that wants to play under center. For a certain whatever percentage it is of snaps, 30, 40, 50% of snaps, and you have a quarterback that's unwilling, uncomfortable, and ineffective under center. I think that's a huge problem with this Bears offense, because if you look around their offense, I kind of disagree with you a little bit in terms of being able to run the ball. Their offensive line had the biggest jump from bottom 5 to top 5, worst to first. I think not necessarily first, but the biggest improvement on an offensive line is right here with the Chicago Bears. Far and away the most improved line in the offensive, line, far and away the most improved offensive line in the NFL. They returned Jones and Wright at tackle. Obviously, one of those tackles are pretty sketchy, to say the least. I think he's low IQ, very talented, but maybe he could be coached up. They acquired Tuna. They acquired Jonah Jackson. They acquired Dahlman. 2 of them top 10 in their positions last year. And the running back, I don't put a lot of value in running backs, because I think the running back position is just a product of the offensive line and the play calling situation. I don't like the Bears backfield necessarily. I don't like Swift, but I think he has some familiarity with Johnson and his offense that he wants to, implement. I think Roschon Johnson's okay. I think they'll do better in a good offensive scheme. And I think obviously they have a great wide receiver group, from left to right. They have 2 tight ends. I think that allows them to run heavy personnel, to do some things that are interesting on offense that a lot of other teams can't do with Kmet and Loveland. I think Loveland's going to be an absolute stud in the NFL. And I think they're extremely deep too at the wide receiver position with Burden and Zacchaeus in the wide receiver room. But it all comes back to, can Caleb Williams execute? If we base it on last year, he's one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL by far. We know, and he put it on film last year, despite that terrible year he's had. He put some things on film that were just like jaw-dropping, eye-opening. Like, this kid can do it. Can I get him to operate within a system? Can I get him to commit? Can I get him to take the fucking nail polish off? I mean, I think that's what Ben Johnson's asking himself right now. And I don't know if Ben Johnson's sold on Caleb Williams. And it makes me think that Ben Johnson might make the move to badge him if things go wrong. I really believe that. Because, the sentiment from Ben Johnson on Caleb Williams and Badgett, you could tell, right? There's some nonverbal cues that he's given away that is telling me that he likes Badgett. He really does. So I would be interested to see what he does in that situation. If Caleb Williams continues to flop, he's more worried about how he looks and being cutesy than actually playing football and leading men. I think he's going to get left in the dust and be a forgotten memory of football, a fossil. The defense, I think, is pretty much middle of the pack. I think it's a problem too. Here's another problem, right? The offense, I think there's a problem with the under center scheme for the Bears and Caleb Williams. Well, the defense is a huge problem here, in my opinion. Eberflus and Dennis Allen are completely different. Completely different. So you went from a coach that was very conservative, bend but don't break, run zone, to a defensive coordinator that wants to be high risk, high reward, uber aggressive. I don't think that that's going to fit this Bears defense very much. And they didn't play man to man. Dennis Allen likes to play man to man. The Bears played zone all last season when they had all their success under Eberflus. I don't think it's connecting. Like, it was funny because I texted you, Jim, after I seen the offensive series that I seen in the preseason with Caleb Williams, and I was like, hey, there could be something here. And if the defense can repeat what they did last year, and Caleb Williams could just be functional, this Bears team is going to they're going to contend. And it starts in the trenches. I think the defensive line is good. The offensive line, I think, could be great. But I just think there's a lot of things that just haven't tied together for me. I would like to back the Bears. Me and my pops put in a futures on the Cubs pretty much every year. We're having a great season. We've been just betting team total over, and we've been cashing every season. There's no way I can put my money down on the Bears right now in this division. There's a hell of upside, probably more upside in this division. The Bears have the most upside, no doubt about it. And it's probably obvious with the 7.5 team total compared to 9.5 everywhere else. But I just cannot trust. I mean, it's time for Caleb Williams to throw out the nail polish and become a leader of men. And I don't know if he could do that.
Caleb Williams is not who we think of when we think of a leader. He's not. He's had a very nice life, pampered life. He's been with his girlfriend since high school. Look at Mahomes. He's more effeminate than what we would generally want leading a huddle. It's strange. In saying that,
he's had a media coach, Jim. He's had a media coach since he was in high school. He had a guy coaching him on how to interact with media.
I mean, his dad is such a success story. His dad set this all up. His dad's been setting this all up, since he was a kid. With it all said and done, I'll tell you what, I know that he doesn't fit our idea of a starting quarterback, and he may never, which means maybe he won't be able to win the biggest game. Maybe. But I'm telling you, he's going to be a top 10 quarterback in this league for 10 years.
Caleb.
And I don't think it starts year one with Ben Johnson, just because of the transition.
So it's going to be with the new organization.
No, it'll be here. It'll be here with Ben Johnson, just not in year one. I think he just doesn't fit the mold we have in our head. That doesn't mean he doesn't have the skill set for it. He just hasn't had to fight for things. And sometimes when you don't have to fight for things, people don't trust you. That's just life. If you haven't had to fight to get out of a horrible situation or fight to succeed, then people don't trust you. And people don't trust Caleb Williams. They don't trust him, but because he hasn't had to fight for things. But either did Tom Brady and Derek Jeter.
I go back and forth because you watch the tape on Caleb and you see him able to do anything you'd want of a quarterback, to throw the ball downfield, to throw on the move. But the one thing he can't do is the most basic of everything. And that goes back to the coaching last year. I hated the coaching. Talked about it from early on in the season. just don't know, man. Just don't know what. Whereas you might be right. You might be right, but right now it's not a good bet.
It's just the division. I mean, it's just like, come on. What chance do you have for the Bears going up twice against the Packers, Vikings, and Lions? I mean, you're in big, big trouble here. Big, big trouble.
They'd be lucky to split with all those teams.
Let's roll on to a new division here. Coin, that's great news. I don't consider myself like a contrarian bettor. I don't think about being a contrarian bettor at all. But the last two times these teams, Winnipeg, Saskatchewan, played 80 points each game. So everyone running to bet the over. Sports,
Jimmy, you are a contrarian bettor, bro.
But sports capping doesn't work like that. Life doesn't work like that. You think that you see something happen twice in a row, you think it's going to happen a third time, then you're going to lose all your fucking money betting on it. Just doesn't work like that. Don't believe what you saw in everything. Don't believe what you see in life. Don't believe what you see in capping. All right, let's roll on.
Spot on, man.
Let's move on to the NFC South. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They've made myself some really good money. They've made my friends some really good money. I've been impressed with this football team. I did not have a lot of faith in Todd Bowles. I'm so excited to see him take over the defensive coordinator spot this year. I've always liked him. But I haven't liked. I like him as a person. I don't like him as a coach.
Bulls?
Yeah. And now I'm excited to see him take on this defensive coordinator spot. We also have John Grizzard taking over the offensive coordinator spot. So we have, well, Bowles is not a first-year defensive coordinator, but he is here in this situation. So the Bucs come in off a fourth straight NFC South crown. They went 10-7 last year. They're 25-1 to win the Super Bowl. They're even money to win the division, and their win total is at 9.5 wins. This offense was top 5 in rushing and passing last year, and the entire offense returns. So Liam Cohen leaves for the Jaguars. He spent last year as the passing game coordinator. He's a very smart guy. But John Grizzard comes over, takes over. Baker Mayfield has taken his career to heights as a Buccaneer that I never expected. He's blowing my mind every year. In his first 2 seasons as a Buck, he started every game. Those are the quarterbacks that you want futures on, the teams that you want futures on, when you know the quarterback's going to be out there, like Jared Goff starting 17 games. He has started every game. He throws for 4,000 yards both years. And in the 2 seasons, if you would have told me this, I would have laughed you out the door. In 2 seasons as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, he's thrown 79 passing touchdowns in the regular season. God, last year, he also ran for a career high 378 yards and 3 touchdowns. And he would take big hits and he would pop up right after. He has a Hall of Famer, Mike Evans, who caught for 1,000 yards for the 11th straight season to begin his career. Godwin returns as he recovers from his late season ankle injury. Jalen McMillan had a really strong rookie season. Now, he's going to start the season on IR with a neck injury. They did draft Ohio State wide receiver Emeka Egbuka. The offensive line is anchored by left tackle Tristan Wirfs, first-team All-Pro. And as I said, now we have Bowles taking over the defense. So we had a 3-year tenure of coordinators Larry Foote and Casey Rogers. Foote remains on the staff. Rogers is departed for Detroit. Bowles has a lot of experience as a defensive coordinator. Before becoming a head coach, he's been in the NFL since 2000. He's worked for 3 teams as a defensive coordinator, including Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay promoted Bowles to head coach from defensive coordinator. Bowles worked for that role from 2019 to 21 under Bruce Arians. The defense was a weak point last year. I love taking the ownership. I love it. I like it so much. Their pass rush was meek. And I do not believe free agent signing Hassan Reddick is enough. Vita Vea is a monster at nose tackle. Khalil Kalijah Cansey looks so perfect right beside him, and Levante David returns. They have all-pro safety Antoine Winfield, but the cornerback group did struggle, and they did struggle, but injuries were a key factor. Take it away for us here, my friend, the NFC South.
Another key factor to that secondary underperforming is, I think, coaching. I think Todd Bowles, this is a guy, he deploys a good strategy. Obviously, he has good intent, but he's stuck in his ways. He has no willingness to adjust. He'll gladly go down with this ship if things ain't working and stick to his play card, and that's a problem. Not a guy who I want to back in the modern age of football. He wants to blitz. He wants the pressure style of defense, but, he can't adjust to his personnel. I think it's pretty obvious. Grizzard, I'm not sure what to expect from. He's from the McDaniel tree. I don't know what to expect, but my understanding is he wants a massive playbook, massive. Like he's going to have way more, nuance than Baker Mayfield had last season. That could be good because, you just got more options, but it could be detrimental because too many options is not good. Like in my experience, you want a scheme that's buttoned up. Everything looks very similar, and a jack of all trades or a master of none. And what Grizz is trying to do, I kind of am starting to lose confidence because I've heard that he's really trying to implement a vast array of formations and different looks, and maybe it's just what we're seeing in camp. I'm not sure, but we'll find out. The offensive line is going to be a top 10 offensive line. I think the worst case scenario, this is a 10th offensive line unless some injuries devastate them. And they're very young, too. I mean, Godecki, you got Mouch. The right side of the line is going to be solid. Then you got Wirfs on the left side to take care of the blind side, and no wonder Baker Mayfield had a breakout season. We should expect that to progress. I think this offensive line is primed to be better than they were last year, and that's an elite thing to say and to expect. The running backs, Bucky Irving and Rachaad White, you got a committee backfield. I think that's necessary in today's NFL. Bucky, he could be the next best running back in the NFL. Ability to run the ball in between the tackles, outside of the tackles, the ability to catch the ball, hit the home run. You could do it all. And at wide receiver, Mike Evans and Cade Otton alone, that won't be enough. They need another option. Insert Egbuka from Ohio State. Certainly one of the biggest names in the draft, and I expect him to make an impact right out of the gate. And Baker Mayfield is just a quarterback I absolutely love. He earned it the hard way. Great presence in the pocket, an internal clock that's second to none. The offense has all the elements, but they have the coach to pull it all together. And I'm highly doubting that right now with what I've heard from Grizzard. And it's hard to just have all this turnover on the offensive staff every single year. The defensive line, they have Vea and Diaby. I think they're both studs, but they have problems. Like Kalijah Cansey, he's been terrible. We thought this guy would be elite. I think he shouldn't even be on the field. What he put on tape, he should not even be on the field. A huge swing and a miss that it's not going to be forgotten, and especially when there's no depth behind him. I don't see depth on the defensive line. So I think they're, the high end, they're very top heavy with their defensive line. The linebackers, Levante David, he's been solid throughout his NFL career. He's 35 years old, man. You can't take much more. It's going to be that year. Like that year is right now for me, Jim, where, I hit 33 years old. And I'm starting to feel it. My knees, all the wear and tear that I had from playing football at a high level, training my ass off, trying to be the best I possibly could be. Like eventually it's just going to fucking hit him like a wall. He's going to run into a wall, and he's not going to be able to even think about competing in the NFL anymore. And you can watch the film on him. He's one step slower when he's scraping down the offensive line. He kind of looks out of place. He kind of looks fragile. The secondary, I think, has elite upside, probably one of the highest upsides. I think Tyke Smith, he's probably the best asset for Todd Bowles because he's a great blitzer. He's great in the box. He can stop the run. So he's a perfect nickel cornerback for this scheme. Zion McCollum, I think he's perfectly capable of creating a little island, niching out a little island on the right side of the football. Winfield, if he could stay healthy, He's top tier safety, and Jamel Dean. I mean, he's a quality player in his own right. Hey, there's a lot to like about this team, especially Baker Mayfield. I have a little soft spot for Baker, but I just cannot bet this team from a future standpoint at this point because there's another team that stood out head and shoulders above everybody else in this division.
And we are going to get to them next. But you haven't told me that, but I know, who you're going to say. But this team is going to cash overs all season long. And
here's a future. So I gave my analysis to a guy. I work for Riddell. We're a football company. There's football Fridays. Like, football is in the blood of every single person at the company I work for as an analyst. And there's somebody that's extremely bullish that I respect massively. I really respect him. And he says that the best futures is Bucks to be the leading scorer, to score the most points in the NFL. And this guy put $5,000 on it. So, I mean, it's a big bet. And I could see that definitely being the case because you got a very polarized defense, a very fast pace. Well, it was a fast pace. What we don't know is what the offensive coordinator is going to do with pace. But I could see there being a lot of points in Bucks games, a lot of points.
We have a question from our guy, D. Jenkins, being a member of the channel for a long time. We thank you for that, D. Jenkins, very much. He says, Bucky Irving over 1,000.5 rush yards is what I'm looking at with the Bucks. Thoughts? My thoughts are to never bet a player prop season long receiving or rushing because of the injuries. You can be so right. And in week 8 or week 9, you're easily on your way to cash it. It goes down with an injury. The books want these bets to come in so badly. So I've only ever in my life bet unders on season long rush props because how often do you see running backs get hurt? From an X's and O standpoint, if you told me Bucky Irving's going to be healthy for the entire season, oh yeah, he's going to get to 1,000 yards. He's a monster. But my feeling is that these bets shouldn't be bet. Troy, what is your take on Bucky Irving over 1,000.5 rush yards?
I agree with you 100%. I think that the books are begging for this money. Most of them are coming in on the overs. They're not really moving the lines very much at all. And if they do, it'll be drastic. It'll be noticeable. I haven't watched these lines, but that's my experience with them. I was considering betting one for the next team I think we're going to talk about here. And I just don't think it's worth it. I think that the edge is very small to be had in the futures market, and in the player-specific market, very difficult because 1 or 2 games just changes the thing. And, it's just really tough to beat that market, in my opinion.
One last thing about the Buccaneers. I think they're going to be a predictable football team. I think they're going to score a lot of points. I think they're going to allow a lot of points. They're going to play wild football. I think they're going to have big comebacks. I think they're going to be a great live bet when they're way down. Probably a fade when they're way up. It's possible. Now, I don't know exactly what's going to happen with this terrible defense when Bulls takes ownership over it. But I think it's very possible that they're the most predictable football team in the NFL. And that's heaven. That's music to our ears. We're going to cash so much money off of it. But let's roll on, fellas. Let's roll on to the Atlanta Falcons, 8-9. They are 75-1 to win the Super Bowl, plus 7,500. Imagine being 75-1 to win the Super Bowl, but just plus 210 to win your division. How terrible must your division be? SC4 All says the only future bet I have so far is Michael Penix over 3,250 passing yards. And I imagine that is something that might have been the spot that Troy was talking about. We have the win total at 7.5. It's minus 140 for the over, plus 110 for the under. Raheem Morris entering his second season as head coach. Zach Robinson entering his second season as OC. And then Jeff Ulbrich, defensive coordinator for his first season. Penix begins his first full season as the starter, and expectations are high that he will snap the 7-year playoff drought in Atlanta. I mean, maybe I shouldn't say expectations are high. Maybe they're high in Atlanta. But the win total 7.5. So let's not get past that. He has weapons, real legit weapons. Drake London was exceptional last year. 100 receptions, 1,271 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Darnell Mooney was a beast in his first season since coming over from the Bears. 992 yards and 5 touchdowns. Who would have ever thought he would have done that? Bijan Robinson took the next step as a sophomore and was excellent. 1,456 rushing yards and 14 touchdowns, while he caught 72 passes for 431 yards. Now, we talked about Drew Dalman leaving. That's going to be a hit to the offensive line. And now Caleb McGarry sustained a leg injury in practice last week. He's gone for the entire year.
No.
Yeah. So you have Dalman gone.
What?
Caleb McGarry done for the season. You have left tackle Jake Matthews, left guard Matthew Bergeron, right guard Chris Lindstrom, all returning. You have no Grady Jarrett. He leaves the season and leaves in the offseason. And there are real concerns for the pass rush. There are real questions surrounding this linebacker group. Also gone, Matthew Judon, Justin Simmons. They bring in San Francisco 49ers outside linebacker Leonard Floyd. 2025 first-round pick Jalen Walker out of Georgia. They also get James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee. They will also get back 2024 third-round pick Braylon Trice. He missed all of his rookie season after tearing his ACL. The secondary, led by A.J. Terrell and safety Jesse Bates, will be a point of strength. But there are problems with this football team, and can this offense mask the problems, and can Jeff Ulbrich handle them on defense? Take it away for us, Troy. The Atlanta Falcons.
Well, that kind of throws a little bit of slump in what I was about to preach here, because I did not know McGarry. I was so confident in these two tackles being one of the best tackle combo in the league. That's painful for this offensive line. All right, I'm gonna revert back, because that's just sticking with me right now, because that's news to me. I've had a long 5 days. Only if you were in my household would you understand what's going on over here. But, go back to the coaching. All right, I'm reverting back to step one, coaching. Raheem Morris, I'm not sure what to expect. I think there's some very questionable decisions that he's made throughout his career, and especially last season. I don't love what I've seen. It hasn't been pretty. I was impressed, actually, with what I see with Zach Robinson, the offensive coordinator, especially with Penix in the game, and it's exactly the offense that I would deploy if I were coaching. Zone running scheme, play action with heavy use of the wide side of the field, be it as you're moving the ball in that direction, or be it that you're using that as a deception tactic. And you've seen if and this is bad that I've noticed this, but London to the wide side of the field is almost never used. So there's a little bit of there's some tells there with the offensive scheme, but I've actually been impressed with what I've seen. And Jeff Ulbrich, I think he's fully capable of getting the most out of his defensive personnel. But here's the problem is, like, we've seen massive changes from week to week. He adjusts. He's a bit of an amoeba. He adjusts to the offense. You can see a 4-3 man coverage one week and 3-4 with a zone the next, and a contained type of pass rush, which I didn't like. And I'm hoping it's personnel based from last year. I just keep going back to this offensive line, which was just it was a staple for me. And I haven't moved on anything. The only bet I moved on was what we talked about earlier today, which was the Commanders team total under 9.5. I wanted to bet the over, and a lot of it had to do with this offensive line. But I think Lindstrom, obviously the left side of the offensive line is going to be elite with Matthews and Bergeron. It's just so hard. And then on the right side, you got Lindstrom. I'm just stuck on what you just brought to me. I can't believe I didn't see that. Lindstrom is probably the best guard that I've watched play football. And there's a ton of quality on this offensive line, but now you lose somebody very important. And McGarry, that's going to be devastating for this offensive line. And hopefully the offensive coordinator is up to trying to fill that void, because you have to do it with scheme. And hopefully he's able to do that. You got the running back, you got the backfield, who's I think is the best. This is the best combo. Bijan Robinson, Algier, perfect complementary tandem. I guess I'll put them up there first with the Detroit Lions. Both can catch, both can run, both can block. I expect Bijan to have a career year this year, keep leveling up. London is one of the hidden gems. People know he's good. I think he's great. I think he's absolutely elite. They got to get him the football. And no wonder somebody's called it out. Like, hey, they're trying to force London the ball. And there's a reason they're trying to force London the ball in camp, is because they want to know to what extent can they force him the ball and still remain, you know, to not become too predictable with their offense, because I think the guy is elite. Darnell Mooney showed he could be a competent receiver outside of Chicago. And if I had to bet any player prop this year, it would be Kyle Pitts. People are leaving this guy for dead. I think he's going to have a breakout season. He's a great tight end. He's still fast. He's still a great route runner. Still got good hands. He's still got strength. And, Penix. Talked about him all last season. I said I wanted to see him early in the season. As soon as he got inserted, the Falcons were one of the teams that helped me get out of that massive hole I dug last year through weeks 4 and 5. I was betting on the Falcons all the time when Penix got inserted. I think he was the best quarterback in that draft. I still believe it after what we've seen so far. He played 3 games and progressively got better in each and every metric. He has an innate ability to, read the defense prior to the snap, adjust post-snap, can throw the ball from sideline to sideline, lacks mobility to some extent. Most of that is due to injury, but he's still capable of moving with his legs. But I think the offensive line, despite that injury, I think about that a little bit more. I think the offense is going to be successful this season. So how about the defense? I think the defensive line is bottom 5. And that's the biggest thorn for this defense. This was the worst pass rush last season. They addressed it by getting James Pierce, Jalen Walker. One thing's for certain, with this personnel, you can only get better. In the second level at the linebacker position, Caden Ellis, Divine Diablo, Troy Anderson, I think these are 3 linebackers that I would want to start in my defense. And I remember the defensive struggles the Falcons had last season started when Troy Anderson got injured. Really, with his exit of that defense fell off a map. I think that the linebackers are really good. In the secondary, there's some really, really good upside there with Bates, Hughes, well above average players. Terrell, he's a work in progress, but he has some really good plays that he's put on tape. He shows he's fully capable. I really wanted to take this team division to make the playoffs, team total over. I was thinking about tripling up on this team. I thought I would be after our conversation here, Jim, to be honest. But now that I heard that what happened to their, to the right tackle, and I'm a little bit skeptical at this point.
That's 7.5. That would make me very uncomfortable if I was a believer in the Falcons. That's just a very low number in a very weak division.
Yeah, at plus 250, right, on the divisional odds.
210. I mean, the concern for the Buccaneers is the Falcons. So to see a 7.5 here, let's keep rolling through this division, Troy.
Let's do it.
Next up, we have the Carolina Panthers, 5-12 last year. They are plus 15,000 for the Super Bowl, plus 400 for the division. I forgot a 0 there, Jose, on the notes that I gave you. They're not plus 1,500 to win the Super Bowl. I definitely forgot a 0 on that. So add a 0 in your head when you look at that Super Bowl number. 6.5 win total, minus 140 to the over, plus 110 to the under. Head coach David Canales, second season as head coach. And Brad Idzik, offensive coordinator, second season. And Ejiro Evero somehow kept his job. He seems like a very likable guy, and he somehow kept his job. I'm astonished that he kept his job. Bryce Young improved last year. 14 starts through for 2,403 yards, 15 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. He also ran 43 times for 249 yards and 2 touchdowns. So it depends, and we're going to do this with Bo Nix as well. From week 9 through 18, he was 6th in the NFL with an 86.1 passing grade. Bryce Young took a step forward. Their defense took a step backwards. They allowed the most points in one season in the history of the NFL, and Evero kept his job. So Bryce Young got better as the season went on, and the entire offensive line returns. That's the good. If you're looking at the Panthers, that's the good. Robert Hunt, Taylor Mawton, the anchors, this offensive line was 7th in the league last year. The wide receiving group looks weak, but their WR1 is to Tyroa McMillan, 8th overall pick out of Arizona. Xavier Legette's got to be better. David Moore, has to take another step. They both had very disappointing seasons. Tommy Tremble and Jatavian Sanders at tight end were very disappointing. They were not reliable pass-catching options. But you have Chuba Hubbard, career highs in rushing, 1,195 yards, rushing touchdowns, 10. And they bring in Rico Dowdle. Rico Dowdle had a big year last year, 1,079 yards in 2024, backing him up. That's a nice 1-2 punch. Last year, Derek Brown got hurt immediately, and it affected the defense tremendously. He's back, and he's fully healthy. This team was 30th in sacks last year, and they tried to remedy it in the draft. They picked Nick Scorton, 51st out of Texas A&M, and Princely Uman Milan, 77th out of Ole Miss. And linebacking group looks like a serious problem. Shaq Thompson left. Josie Jewell is probably not going to play football ever again. Concussion symptoms won't go away. So no Shaq Thompson, no Josie Jewell. They have a Pro Bowl corner in J.C. Horn. Take it away for us, Troy Torrence, the Carolina Panthers. I think, are you muted, my man?
Yes, I was.
No worries.
I agree with you on the Evero situation. He definitely didn't put much good out there on film last season, but he's from the Fangio branch, so it's hard. I think about the best defensive coordinator in the NFL. I think about Vic Fangio. So if he's from that branch, he's been under that. He's learned under one of the best in the game. And it's hard for me to lose trust in a guy like that. I don't know what happened last season. For him to keep his job, is telling me something. I don't know. It's not all very clear just by, looking at his resume of what we should expect moving forward. Too high safety look, much more flexibility and ability to disguise when you play two high safeties. Post-snap rotations should be very common in a scheme like that, but we didn't see that last year. We didn't see that. So I like to see the two high safeties from Evero, but maybe it was injury related. I don't know because they definitely had their share of injuries. Offensively, Dave Canales, this is the guy why we wanted to back this team last year. He obviously instantly improved this offense from 23 to 24. Finally got Bryce Young to look like a professional quarterback. And this is, again, an ideal scheme. Identify what you're good at, build a scheme to fit within that scope. Don't deviate from the game plan. And that ensures understanding and increases your ability to execute. Nothing but trust and respect for this guy, Canales. And I don't know what to make of Evero. That's the big question mark for me, because we look at this defense, the defensive line between stopping the run and stopping the pass is the worst unit in the NFL by margin. But, they insert Derek Brown back in the lineup. Things are going to change considerably with him back in. This is a top 5 defensive lineman when he's fully healthy. And I'm talking about interior or on the edge. They got DJ Wanham, who has big play potential, but lacks heart, just like a lot of teams do. A lot of these teams that just fall off and just really have no chance, they don't have the heart towards the end of the season. And obviously that's maybe a sign of a bad head coach. I'm not sure, but these guys are veteran players. I expect the defensive line to be better than they were last season, obviously with Derek Brown being healthy. But it really comes down to, can Derek Brown elevate the rest of the defensive line? Because that's what he's going to have to do. The linebackers this is the worst unit in the NFL. They're going to be heavily dependent on the growth of Trevin Wallace. And I don't know if his sophomore season is going to look better than it did his freshman year. And that's why I like these veteran players. I'll give them a pass on a team like the Panthers, who had absolutely no shot of anything playing in the playoffs, basically after, 5 weeks of the season. But a player that's a freshman fighting for a contract, trying to show he's NFL caliber, NFL ready. I don't know if I believe in anything I see with this linebacker group, and I have high hopes for the secondary. I think that this is their claim to fame here. This is their best unit on the defense. They have 3 quality players, but absolutely no depth. So if you have an injury, it's going to be a problem. J.C. Horn and Mike Jackson on the outside, Moorick at safety. It's a solid team. I mean, veterans that I think will lock in and give a good effort if a team's given quality performances and is competing for something. So it's a really tough situation with this Panthers team to move on a 6.5. I mean, the bookies aren't showing much value there. And the offense, like you think about this offense, I think Bryce Young is going to be able to compete in the NFL. I think he's going to be just fine after what we've seen to close out the season last year. His final 3 PFF passing grades, 92, 81, 90. We need some confirmation this year. I expect him to lead a quality offense, to be honest, because you look at the wide receiver room. I mean, there's all signs of great potential at receivers. Coker in his second year, Leggett in his second year, and rookie McMillan out of Arizona. All of them are 6'3". They're massive with a blow off the top potential, home run ability. They got that. They got a good offensive line. They got 3 good running backs who can give quality. If you're drafting Hubbard in your fantasy, you might be in some trouble. And their offensive line is solid, is absolutely solid. They solidified that last year. We should expect to see growth this year. The offense gives me high hopes. The defense gives me not really any, hope at all, to be honest. But that's how I see the Panthers. I'm going to be betting on the Panthers quite a bit this season, I would anticipate. But for futures, not for me.
I thought that I was going to be involved in Bryce Young having a big season. We made money off him in the second half of the year. This team is bad. So Bryce Young is going to be good. I just don't understand. And they've given him an offensive line that's strong, and they've given him a running game that's strong. And I guess you just can't ask for everything. So the wide receiving group has a ton of question marks. The defense, the linebacking group is the worst in the league. I mean, they were 30th in sacks last year. This defense allowed more points than any team in the history of the sport. The more I'm going over this division, I'm astonished that we're getting plus 100 on the Buccaneers to win it. And I did not think I was going to end up, but now, like, sitting in it, and I'm going to have more time to sit with it. I'm astonished. And it's too bad because I like Bryce Young. I really respect how he's handled himself. I think he's going to be a really good quarterback in this league. But good God, it's just a terrible football team they've put him with. But he'll be protected and he'll have a running game. So,
I wanted to be a believer. I wanted to believe in this team. I tried so hard to get there. I just couldn't do it.
No, they're going to be bad, but he could be good. And then D. Jenkins saying, is this an over team? I think one of the issues with the setup for this team is they're going to want to control time of possession. And because of that, it might not be the over that we think, because they're going to want that control with the running game, with the offensive line, slow it down. So we'll see. Let's talk about the New Orleans Saints. 500-1 to win the Super Bowl. The New Orleans Saints, 500-1. To win the division, they're 12-1. Their win total is 4.5. It's minus 155 to the over, plus 125 to the under. We have Kellen Moore in his first season as head coach, offensive coordinator Doug Nussmeier first season, and Brandon Staley gets a job as defensive coordinator. Astonishing that this old man group will just keep giving these jobs to these retreads who are trash. It's going to be a long year in New Orleans. Derek Carr retired in the offseason, so they'd already used their second-round draft pick for Tyler Shuck out of Louisville. Well, that's where he closed his career. So he will begin his career. Spencer Rattler is backup. Kellen Moore will find running this offense much more difficult than running the Super Bowl champion Eagles offense. Rattler has a good receiving core in Olave, Rashid Shaheed, the speedster, and Brandon Cooks. Kamara had a bounce-back season last year, one that I wasn't really expecting. 228 carries for 950 yards, 6 touchdowns. Caught 68 passes for 543 yards and 2 touchdowns, all in just 14 games. They used their 9th overall pick in the draft to help fortify their offensive line with Calvin Banks Jr. out of Texas. They need Eric McCoy and Cesar Ruiz to stay healthy this year. I mean, they need it so badly, and they're healthy right now. We know Taysom Hill tore his ACL in week 13 last year, so he's a long way from helping this team. This defense was tied for 30th in ranking last year. He's going to implement a new base scheme. He's going to switch to the 3-4. Last year, the Saints had the second worst run grade defense in the NFL, so they made some moves. Right, they bring in defensive tackle Devon Gottschall. They signed Justin Reed. They re-signed Chase Young. Whether he cares about football or not is questionable. But they used 4 of their top 6 draft picks on defensive players. So they're working on it to give Staley something. A 36-year-old linebacker, Demario Davis, is going to have to be one of the best linebackers in the NFL to give this group a chance. The Honey Badger announced his retirement right before training camp just to give them a little more confidence. He was at veteran minicamp. And what do you think happened? He looked around and he was like, no, I'm not going to do this. It's not impossible that the Honey Badger signs again with another team in 2 months or next year. He just doesn't want to play with this trash team. Secondary is a concern. They traded Marshawn Lattimore midway through last season, and then Paulson Adebo gone. So this is going to be a bad football team. So bad that we can take the under 4.5 wins at plus 125. Troy, what do you think?
I'm thinking about it. I'm certainly thinking about it. When you hire Brandon Staley as your defensive coordinator, you're desperate. You're extremely desperate, but I'm trying to realize my bias here. We were high on the Chargers. Before the Eagles last year, my future of the year before that was the Chargers. And the massive problem with that team, despite all the talent, was the defense. So the defense was going to be elite. They're going to take a massive step forward. But after watching tape on what Brandon Staley put on the field, it was completely embarrassing. The confusion, the pre-snap fire drills, what I continued to say last year, the blown coverages, no gap integrity in the front. I mean, the issues were like just nonstop. Every game, you've seen the same thing. Nothing changed. Now, he is much better suited as a defensive coordinator than a head coach, but I still highly doubt his competency. Kellen Moore, he doesn't come off as a head coach that's like somebody that I think can connect with his players based on the small amount of interviews that I've seen. But I can't hate on the resume he's built necessarily. His offense was stacked in Philly, particularly on the offensive line, and we're getting the exact opposite here. An offensive line that's featuring 4 first-round picks that hasn't developed in this shit. This is a bad offensive line. They're definitely going to finish 20th or below this season. I think we know who these guys are, just outside of Banks, who they drafted in the first round this year. They got Rattler at quarterback, who I think is the worst quarterback in the NFL. He can't execute at the NFL level. He can't read coverages. He looks uncomfortable in the pocket, and he has no pocket presence, no internal clock. He's a bad quarterback. Put him behind this bad offensive line, and it's going to be a fucking disaster. I just cannot expect much from this team. I think Olave is probably one of the best receivers in the NFL that nobody knows and nobody thinks is really at that level. I think Olave is probably one of the best, but we're not going to see it with Rattler at quarterback in this offensive line. So the offense is in big trouble, and you look at the defense. I mean, Cam Anderson exemplifies exactly what I was talking about earlier with Levante David. And actually, Levante David didn't post a good PFF grade. He didn't look great on film. He looked very fragile, like I said. Well, Cam Anderson, he's exactly what I was talking about. You hit a certain age and your performance drops off a cliff. We've seen that last year with Cam Anderson. Chase Young, does he give a fuck? Because it doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like he can rush the passer anymore. Their defensive line is not good. Their linebackers, Pete Werner, Davis, I guess I'll give him a little flag there. They got a good linebacker group, but outside of that, I mean, this defense is piss poor. I don't think that this team is worth the future. If anything, I'd be looking towards the under. I'm with you, Jim, if that's the way you're looking.
Yeah, I mean, one of the problems is my ROI on picking the worst team in the league or expected is bad. There's always a surprise team that's just has a quarterback injury and decides let's throw in the towel and get the first overall pick. But I don't know how this team wins 5 football games, and getting plus 125 on it. It sounds pretty appealing, but we got to think. Well, they play Carolina twice. Can they squeeze out a win against Atlanta or Tampa Bay? Not impossible from home. Yes, I want that under 4.5 and plus money, but those bets that seem so easy, my ROI doesn't work like that. So I'm going to need to spend a little bit more time on it, but I'm certainly interested in it. Let's talk about our final division here in the NFC before we set up our next show, which will be at 9 p.m. Eastern for the AFC. We start with the LA Rams. 10-7 last year. They're 20-1 to win the Super Bowl. They gave the Eagles a run. They're plus 200 to win the division, and their team total is at 9.5. Do I want to invest in the LA Rams? Yes. Is it easy to press the button when Stafford is, in a rocking chair right now, and a blanket over him? Using some sort of pill to go to sleep and not feel the back pain. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to press the button. But this team with Sean McVay in his 9th season is more than the sum of their parts every single year. Offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur, 3rd season. Dennis Garcia says the Rams could go south real fast, and he's absolutely right. But Mike LaFleur in his 3rd season as offensive coordinator, Chris Shula in his 2nd year as defensive coordinator, and McVay. I mean, that's just the group of coaches I want to have invested in. But D. Jenkins says that's my biggest issue in taking the Rams over 9.5. It was going to with the. I don't even think you need to take the 9.5. Honestly, I think it's better just to take the 200 for the division. Get the plus money on it, but. The Rams, as I said, they gave the toughest test to the Eagles in last year's playoffs. Stanford looks again to fight off the injuries and Father Time. His ongoing back injury is a concern. Puka Nakua's 92.6 PFF receiving grade led all qualified wide receivers. You said that immediately when he came into the NFL, that he was a Hall of Famer. And I laughed when you said it. And look what he's done. He has a new running mate in Devontae Adams, comes in to replace Cooper Kupp. Tutu Atwell returns. They had the highest graded wide receiving unit last year, and it should be better in 2025. Kyron Williams has been elite to start his career. Last year, he ran for 316. He had 316 carries for 1,299 yards, 14 touchdowns. They hope to get a full year out of Tyler Higbee. The Rams' offensive line struggled last year, struggled a lot. They ranked 30th as a team in PFF pass blocking grade. They've brought back Coleman Shelton. I guess Troy can give us a better idea of Shelton. He was with the Bears last year. He was their center in 2023. This young defensive line looks to be even stronger. I mean, you give Jared Verse and Brandon Fiske another year. Verse led the NFL with 89 quarterback pressures in 2024. He joined TJ Watt as the only edge defenders to earn 80-plus PFF grades as a run defender and pass rusher. And then they bring in Poona Ford. And that's going to help their run defense. It's going to hurt the Chargers' run defense not having them. There's question marks around their linebacking core. Take it away for us here, Troy, the LA Rams.
I actually think Shelton is going to be okay because he's under Sean McVay's control and his scheme. I think Sean McVay, this is the most deception, a defense has to actually plan for the Sean McVay scheme. And you can't say that about every offensive coordinator in the NFL. I mean, he completely innovated and pioneered a new offensive approach. The ability to identify, target, and exploit defensive tendencies is insanity with McVay. And the best offensive mind game. I think from what I've seen, he's probably the best offensive mind in the game. And that says a lot about where this offense could be this season under Sean McVay. But look at their offensive line. Now they immediately get a boost. I put them around league average, roughly between 10th and 15th, 10th and 16th. I think that under a favorable scheme, this offensive line could be good. They're solid at tackle with Jackson and Havenstein. They're top 10 at both right guard and Avila. Maybe not. Maybe I shouldn't say that about Avila, but I think they're pretty strong at offense at guard. But Shelton, he was under the worst scheme in the NFL with the Chicago Bears. I think he's going to be just fine with McVay, with Stafford. And it's hard not to, this running back, this backfield is going to be league average, which is okay. It's passable for an offense. And I think the wide receiver core is elite. Obviously, you got Puka, you got Devontae Adams. I think both of them, like you said, are Hall of Famers. Nakua's motor. That was what was so impressive, his motor. His ability to get up down after down, whether he, blocked, whether he just ran a fade route just to get the cornerback off the scent of the offense, whether he caught a pass, broke 2 tackles, he got up and he ran this next play at the same speed. He's very physical. He's a great route runner. He's got great ball skills. I think he's truly elite, and he's going to outshine Devontae Adams in this offense. The addition of Adams is just going to make Nakua more explosive and more powerful as an offensive asset. And the complement is going to be great at receiver. So we look at Stafford. What is Stafford going to be able to do within the structure of this offense? He's going to be fine because he's got a great team around him, in my opinion. He's got a great offensive mind with McVay. But he's 37 years old. Eventually, it's going to hit. Now, it's going to hit way later, much later, and much less impactful at quarterback. But he has the acumen. He's a veteran. He knows how to execute the offense. And he's a product of his offensive environment, which is really good. Then you look at the defense. So I believe in this offensive line. I believe in the quarterback. I believe in the offensive coordinator. The defensive line is elite. I think it was extremely impressive what they were able to do last season. You can argue that they overperformed, but I think that they're extremely young and have only upside from here. They're deep. Spurs, Ford, Turner, Fisk, Young. I mean, this is just like what you want as a defensive coordinator. Spates and Reeder, not very impressive at linebacker. Probably one of the worst linebacking groups in the game, but that's okay. That's like running back to me because the linebackers could hide. They're sandwiched in between the defensive line and the secondary. And I gave this a very conservative grade. I graded them, basically on the back half of average in the secondary. But I think they're fully capable of climbing the charts at cornerback, at safety, with a great defensive front and a great coach. Because you look at Shula, he's from the Fangio branch. This is why, his defense had success last season. I think we're going to see success from this defense again. I think this is a quality future. 9.5 minus 145. I don't know. Futures are just so difficult for me to be able to price out adequately. But I do think that the Rams are going to be very, very competitive. And I think that they are going to be the team who wins this division.
So you can move past the fear of, what's going to happen to their starting quarterback. I mean, he's not going to play 17 games. We know that for sure.
Jimmy, I'm not going to move past it because I'm not going to actually move on it, but I'm going to be betting on the Rams actively throughout the season.
Well, I want to be involved in them. Even the 20-1 for the Super Bowl, I kind of want in my pocket. I think I've got to just get over. I can't. If I'm going to bet on the win total, I'll have to turn it into a 10. I'm not going to have them a minus 145 out there. So I'll have to turn it into a 10 first off. The 200 for the division. Let's go through the rest of the division. It comes down to what do you want in your pocket? Like, what are you comfortable if Stafford gets hurt and you lose the bet? And Dennis Garcia says, win total, waste of time with the Rams, swing big either way. Yeah, I agree. Are you comfortable losing? I'm not comfortable losing a minus 145 or even a 10. I'd have to see what I'd get for the 10. But let's roll on. Next up for us, we stay in the NFC West. Is the Seattle Seahawks 10-7, 60-1 to win the Super Bowl, plus 550. On the division. Their win totals at 8.5, juiced pretty heavy towards the under. We have, and Dennis says you could take under 6.5 at a huge plus price or Super Bowl. That's an interesting way of handling it because, they're not going to be average. That's a very interesting way of handling it, Dennis. So we have Mike McDonald in his second season, Clint Kubiak in his first, and defensive coordinator Aiden Dirty in his second season. Mike McDonald and the Seahawks became the first team, and we talked about that with D. Jenkins off the top of the show, whether you should take to win a division or over 9.5 wins. They were the first team to not make the playoff despite double-digit wins since 2020. It's a long time. And going 3-6 at home obviously didn't help matters. So they underwent major changes on offense. Quarterback Geno Smith gone, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf gone, offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb gone, and in comes Sam Darnold, Cooper Kupp, and Clint Kubiak. Jackson Smith and Najigba had a breakout season with 1,130 yards receiving and 6 touchdowns, but there's very little depth behind them. They're going to need Cooper Kupp to stay healthy, and that's a long shot. He's missed 18 games since 2022. Their running back tandem of Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet return, and it's funny, how you study this here. Oh my God, Coin! I thought I was for sure going to lose that. That's wonderful, wonderful news, Coin. I thought for sure, as soon as I opened my mouth, there was a scoop and score and a 69-yard touchdown. That's just the most wonderful news. Thank you, Coin. That really, really warms me up inside. Walker's run for less yards and touchdowns every year since entering the league in 2022, but since 2022, he's generated a 92.5 PFF rushing grade. That's top 6 in the NFL. And then it goes further, which is, why this study is important. Because if you were to ask me, how did Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet look last year? I was like, well, they're disappointing. Look at their stats. But it goes deeper than that, and it's important. Walker was graded amongst the best running backs in the league. 91.3 PFF rushing grade. 0.42 avoided tackles per attempt average last season. That ranked first. Listen to this. In PFF's 19 years of the statistic. That's the greatest performance for all running backs with at least 50 carries in 19 years. I was astonished at that. Now, Charbonnet has to take the next step in year 3 of his career. The offensive line was terrible last year. They were ranked 24th in run blocking, 29th in pass blocking, and they allowed 54 sacks. That was 3rd most in the NFL. Abraham Lucas missed 21 games, the right tackle, the last 2 seasons. They draft Gray Zabel in the first round of North Dakota State to help fortify that unit, but it still looks like a weak spot. The defense looks very strong. Up front, you have last year's first rounder Byron Murphy alongside Leonard Williams. They bring in DeMarcus Lawrence from the Cowboys. He should be a perfect fit with Ernest Jones. I don't know why Ernest Jones was sort of passed around the league. It didn't make sense to me. He's a linebacker that can defend the pass. I think he's very valuable, but these guys know more than I do. In the secondary, Devin Witherspoon, 2nd Pro Bowl. I mean, he's a shutdown corner, and he creates an excellent tandem with Reek Woolen. You got Julian Love at safety. I expect this to be a top 10 defense. And they were ranked 14th overall defensively last season. So let's say you have a top 10 defense in the Seattle Seahawks this year. Is the offense going to be good enough to get you 9 wins? Sure. Shouldn't it be? They must not be about to be a top 10 defense if they're going to hang this 8.5. Could you say, well, this is a tough division? Yes, it's a really tough division. Take it away, Troy, the Seattle Seahawks.
Really good breakdown. I think we're heading in the same direction here. I think the defense is going to be elite. You got Mike McDonald. I know offensive coaches are hot right now, but this is a defensive coach I think was going to be able to connect with his team, connect more broadly with his, with the defense and the offense alike. I love his polarized approach, aggressive pressure, drop 8, rush 4. It's a problem to scheme for something like that for offenses nowadays. And I think Mike McDonald is going to have a massive impact on this defensive performance. And the defense itself is elite. Leonard Williams, the best PFF grade of his career, great interior defender. I always watch him on broadcast because he sticks out like a sore thumb. It's hard not to, because when you're watching the broadcast version of the NFL, you're just watching the offensive line and quarterback play. Really, that's all you're watching. So I just focus in on Leonard Williams because he just sticks out. He's a dog. I do think they got a little bit worse year over year. Jaron Reed gets a year older. DeMarcus Lawrence off an injury. I hear it's not going so well for him, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think this defensive line is above average. PFF got them 23rd, which surprised me. I agree with you too on Ernest Jones. I think there's some good potential in the linebacker group, but PFF doesn't seem to agree with me. PFF is not the end all be all, right? Because PFF takes into account, accumulates every snap of the season, rolls it all up, and they don't know what the offensive, they don't know what the defensive scheme is, right? They don't know what the scheme is. And from what I've watched, it seemed like he was fitting pretty well. What he put on tape was fine with me. I don't think PFF gives him a fair shake, and I think the secondary has potential to be top 5. Right now, I'd put him between 5 and 10. PFF got him at 12. Talks about depth issues, but Woolen, Witherspoon, and Joby, like those guys are very sticky defenders. McDonald's going to be able to do a lot with them. And then you got Julian Love, Kobe Bryant at safety, who both graded out top 25 in their respective positions. Julian Love at 7. And I think they're complementary as well. Kobe fits the run. Love is much better in coverage. Like if Woolen and Witherspoon show a little bit of growth year over year, this is definitely a top 5 unit. I think the defense is going to be elite. I really do. The offense, not quite. The offensive line, bottom 5. PFF got him graded out as 29th. I think that's being a little bit too nice to the Seahawks offensive line because they're terrible. Charles Cross, yeah, he had a breakout year, but who after him? Nobody. From left guard to right tackle, we're talking bottom of the barrel talent. They're unproven with no reason to expect upside. Another year, another terrible Seahawks offensive line. Birdie was talking about, betting futures on this Seahawks team. He must see something in this offensive line because I don't see nothing in him. I don't. And that's I was really considering, like, it came down to Seahawks or Rams. Which one was I going to be bullish on? And I chose the Rams because I believe in their offensive and defensive lines. I cannot get behind this offensive line. I just can't find it. No matter how hard I look, the running back, I disagree. I thought Charbonnet and Walker, I thought that was a good committee in the backfield. And you have to take into account what they did behind their offensive line. There's only so much you can do as a running back when your right guard is getting fucking blown up every down. The wide receiver position, Smith-Njigba, elite. Probably room to grow from here. But Kupp, I think he's on the back half. I think he's still going to downtrend in his career. And there's really no depth behind those two receivers. Who else do you got? You got rookie Torrey Holton, who slotted to start, picked in the 5th round with the 168th pick. I don't know. And then we get the Sam Darnold, who I think was a beneficiary of a great offensive scheme, a great offensive game plan. Now he goes out to Seattle, get him outdoors. I think it's a recipe for disaster with this offense. So I cannot back this Seahawks team. I do think there's upside if things fall into place. My one issue, I really looking at this. I'm a defensive guy by nature. I played wide receiver, but my background is really at safety, and I'm a defensive guy first. I cannot see this offense having any success this season to the level where I would be willing to put my money down pre-season on a future with this team.
Don't you feel like we need to see what Gray Zabel does? I mean, we didn't he's out of North Dakota State, the 1st round pick. I think we need. And what if Abraham Lucas,
1st round pick from North Dakota State? That don't make that. You usually don't hear that. It's.
And then Abraham Lucas, if he's healthy here, the way I hear it from you.
How many snaps did he take in 2022?
Oh, Lucas has been barely playing, but
yeah,
it sounds like your take is the X's and O's of this football team. They're not going to be very good. It's not that, this division is very tough.
Right. Yep.
So that's interesting. I didn't quite expect that. AM says the Seahawks defense is really good, but the best defenses rely on the offense to not put them in horrible positions constantly to be successful. I expect the Seahawks offense to do just that. Birdie says, look at Cross and Zabel's zone blocking ranks coming out of the draft. Sunderland also very good zone blocking. O-line played with Zabel in college chemistry. Instantly, this O-line will be pretty good. That's
actually a really good point. really good point by Birdie, because we know Clint Kubiak, he wants to run zone run to the right, zone to the left. He wants to run zone blocking schemes. Oh, well, yeah.
And Birdie will be betting Seattle highest scoring team week 1 for a big boy bet. And we know what he's made a, like 3 months salary on some of these bets, which are so amazing. It's great to have all the football cappers back.
Really good point by Birdie, Jimmy. Really good point by Birdie there. Because if you could run the ball, then in theory you should be able to run play action off of that. And guess what? That's what Sam Darnold excels at.
Yeah. And
really
he's got Smith Najigba who can break free.
Yep. And he's great out of the slot, which the slot receiver is the most productive off of play action historically. Oh, that's, Birdie really putting some doubt in my mind about my Seahawks take here. Really
and
good.
This is what these shows are about. I really feel the teamwork when we're talking football. And then we have the proof with our records, over the last 2 years. I'm really excited about this. Let's let our guy Harold Williams, who's also back because football's back. Great to see you, Harold, my man. Says, I know a lot of people are high on the Cards, but I gotta see it first.
Oh no!
I cannot wait. This is the division I want to talk about the most. I'm an
NFC
NFC West guy.
This is your division, right?
I love it. I love this division so much, and I
hate this division.
I find it so interesting. These Cardinals were 8-9 last year. They're 50-1 to win the Super Bowl, 425 to win the division, and their season total wins is 8.5, due slightly to the over. I thought that I was going to gravitate towards the Cardinals. It was my expectation all summer. I don't think that's happened thus far, but I'm so interested in capping this. Jonathan Gannon in his 3rd season. Same with offensive coordinator Drew Petzing and defensive coordinator Nick Rallis, all in their 3rd season. Kyler Murray said that after the 2024 season that his knee was still affecting him. I don't know what to make of that, honestly, because I'm not a big fan of Kyler Murray's character, and he's now 2 years removed from his surgery. He ranked 2nd among qualified quarterbacks in yards per carry at 7.3. He did a lot of good things. I don't know what to believe from him here. James Conner just keeps delivering. It's going to stop at some point. Back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. Trey McBride's a monster. 1,146 yards on 111 receptions. He did that with a lot of bad quarterback play. Dennis Garcia says 8.5. That's too high. We saw some flashes from Marvin Harrison Jr. I expect we're going to see more this year. I think it's a pretty easy thing to say. The offensive line returns largely intact, and they bring in Josh Sweat. And his best seasons came when Gannon was his defensive coordinator in Philadelphia. They also signed Dalvin Tomlinson, and they bring in Calais Campbell. Say what you want about Calais Campbell being, a little slow now at 38. He's a leader. They loved him in the locker room in Miami. That brings value to him, and that will help this team. 2025 16th overall pick, Walter Nolan III out of Ole Miss, has a lingering calf issue. So their 16th overall pick is on the reserve PUP list. 2024, Darius Robinson needs to step up in Nolan's absence. The linebacking group ranked 28th in PFF grade last season. And what's going to happen in inside linebacker? It could be terrible. Kaiser White's gone. On the outside, they're strong. Baron Browning, B.J. Ojolari's coming off an ACL tear. He'll miss at least the first 4 games. So he'll be there somewhere. Zaven Collins. The secondary is a concern. Sean Murphy-Bunting, done for the year after knee surgery. And Starling Thomas tore his ACL at the end of July. So they're going to have to lean heavily on Will Johnson. This guy was drafted 2nd round out of Michigan and 2024 2nd rounder Max Melton. These guys are enormously important to their success. Garrett Williams emerged as one of the NFL's premier slot cornerbacks in 2024, 82 PFF grade, ranked 3rd among all qualified corners. So that helps enormously, trailing only Cooper DeJean and Defensive Player of the Year Pat Surtain. Budda Baker continues the patrol at safety. He had the most tackles by safety last season, and he was 2nd in the NFL tackles at 164. Take it away for us here, Troy. It is the Arizona Cardinals.
There's actually quite a bit to like about this Cardinals team. Jonathan Gannon, he's a defensive-oriented head coach. He likes to deploy his zone scheme, which focuses on safety versatility, and they definitely have 2 versatile safeties they have a young secondary. I mean, I would say youngish. I mean, they're going to start a rookie on one side, and they're going to start what is this? They're going to start Garrett Williams on the other side. Garrett Williams, is he moving into the slot when they come out? I don't know about that. I think the defense is going to be well off this season relative to where they were last season. Drew Petzing, power football, inside zone, ISO, heavy formations, multiple tight ends, pound the rock, play action, RPO. I like this offensive coordinator. I like what he's able to do, how he caters to his offense, because when you have James Conner, you have Kyler Murray, you have a very mobile quarterback, which really opens up the playbook and really opens up the opportunity for Drew Petzing to take advantage of. And I think he's done that. Now, when you look at the offensive line, and they're middle of the pack, certainly underrated unit in the 2024 season, very efficient in the running game, probably scheme-oriented. I should say at least helped by this scheme. Paris Johnson was a dog in his sophomore campaign. I had to go back. I seen the PFF grade. I had to go back and watch some tape on this kid. Holy shit. Paris Johnson, dog. Jonah Williams, if he's fully healthy, he's going to be a great addition at tackle. I'm actually kind of high on this offensive line for the first time. You know, they were the beneficiaries of a great scheme and a mobile quarterback until now. I think they could be pretty solid this season. Connor is one of the most patient running backs in the backfield that I've seen throughout my 3-year history. And now it's 3 years of actually, literally, I've watched pretty much every game the past 3 years. He always looks comfortable. He's going to be great. I think, the lack of production from Marvin Harrison is really on, the offensive coordinator and Murray. I mean, he's clearly a great route runner. He's clearly very physical. He's a physical specimen. They need to focus on getting this guy the ball. They need to do whatever they need to do to make sure he's incorporated. Because if you have Harrison and McBride, and you're going to be clicking on all the cylinders. I think this offense has some potential to it. But you go back to Kyler Murray, and you're like, what the fuck? Some of the things Kyler Murray does and says, and, his infatuation with Call of Duty, which I totally get. I'm a gamer myself. Or I was a gamer. I haven't played a game in a minute now. But Kyler Murray, I just don't know. He's just too small for the quarterback position. You want to believe that he's going to be able to excel in the NFL. But I just don't know if I could actually fully see him taking his team to the next level, winning playoff games, contending for a conference championship, contending for Super Bowl. I don't know if I could see it. So I believe in the offensive line. I believe in the assets he has around him, even though they lack some depth at receiver. Behind Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride, who do they got? And McBride is definitely a beneficiary of the scheme itself, being that it's heavy based and, a lot of RPO, misdirection, running the football to open him up. I still think this offense is going to be pretty capable. But then we get to the defense. PFF got this defensive line graded out at 16th, but I doubt it. Calais Campbell, he brings depth. He's a leadership figure in the locker room, but he's 40 years old, man. When you're 40 years old, you can only do so much, especially on the defensive side of the football. If you're not playing quarterback and you're 40, that's extremely impressive. Because he's still, what is he grading now? What did he put together last year? He was 90. So between 2016 and 2019, 91, 91, 91, 90.3. Then you go fast forward past COVID, the past 3 years, 76, 80, 82.3. That's his PFF grade. So it's hard to put your finger on what this guy's going to bring to this defense, but he needs to be a staple for this defense, for this team to have any type of success. The linebackers are extremely weak, and I actually think they're supplemented by a great defensive secondary. Garrett Williams, 4th best coverage grade in the NFL last year. Budda Baker, you watch Budda Baker, he's one of the best safeties in the box. I want to see some cover 4 out of this defense. I really want to see more cover 4 out of this defense. Insert Budda Baker into the in the safety position, and cover 4. He's going to be playing more in the box, run first. And I think that they could have some success. Like, there's some things to like about this team. They fell a little bit short because of Kyler Murray. And Kyler Murray's pretty short himself. So take it for what it is. I don't think that this team is going to be able to compete because of Kyler Murray. That's kind of where I'm at with this team. I think they have a lot of good pieces. They have a lot of upside. They're going to win football games. They're going to cover as big dogs. They're going to win as big dogs. I bet the Cardinals last year plus 6.5 and money line against the Bills in week 1 last year. There's going to be plenty of opportunities to bet on this team, and I'm going to be there to scoop it up and to make the investment. But from a futures aspect, I'm not interested.
The division is so difficult. It's like the NFC North. These teams are going to be beating each other up. The amount of unders I've cashed in the NFC West when they meet each other, it's insane. I've cashed so many unders. I've cashed because they beat each other up. They save all.
2 last year, didn't you?
Sorry?
Didn't you cash 2 unders in this division last year?
Oh, I cashed. I mean, I'll have to go through my spreadsheet, but it's just
pretty sure you cashed 2. Pretty sure.
It's a real gift here when they play each other. I thought. Look, one of the problems here is I'm a Calais Campbell and Buda Baker guy because of what they do in the locker room, and I just don't understand how you can have Buda Baker is going to make Will Johnson and Max Melton feel comfortable, but talk about throwing Will Johnson into the line of fire. I mean, with these injuries with Sean Murphy. No, Sean Murphy bunting was bad last year, but he gives you a sense of calm. And then you lose Starling Thomas too, force these second-round picks to play. I mean,
but he could though. Will Johnson, he's capable, man.
Yeah, but that's a lot to ask. It's a lot to ask. And let's roll into the San Francisco 49ers. This is our last team for our NFC breakdowns. We'll be reuniting here for the AFC breakdowns shortly. The 10.5 at a pick'em is nuts to me. The 49ers being the favorite in the division, I can sort of get, but I would still expect a 9.5 just a minus 140. My family's from San Francisco. I want to bet the under on this 10.5. Shanahan's in his 9th season. Clay Kubiak, offensive coordinator, first season, and then Robert Saleh back in his first season, now back.
So the offensive coordinator, I mean, I don't even have Clay Kubiak. I mean, Shanahan, really, I mean, that's what we should be looking at here, right?
Yeah, Clay's just the assistant.
He's the pawn. I call them pawns when they're the assistant, the offensive coordinator, but really they're bitch boys.
Yeah, sure. That's fair, but Clay Kubiak's going to have a job for the rest of his life now.
Yeah.
So call him what you want. Call him what he's got. He's set.
Bitch boy.
Brock Purdy signed a 5-year, $265 million contract extension on May 2025, 181 guaranteed. He's going to be on the team at least through 2030. The extension made him the 7th highest paid quarterback in the league on a per year basis, average annual $53 million. Troy, do the 49ers get top 7 quarterback play from Brock Purdy?
Within the scheme, very close to 7th, I would say, because, with Shanahan does so much to mask the flaws of his offensive unit that, I would say he's right there. Like he's pushing up on top 5.
Last year, he started 15 games. I don't think he's top 5. He threw for an average of 257.6 yards per game, 20 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. But clearly, the team suffered a barrage of injuries, and his numbers suffered. The opportunity to bet the 49ers in any regard is over. Now, I don't know exactly how to deal with this, and this is the problem when you're talking about Brock Purdy. In 2023, he had the 13th highest passing rating in the history of the National Football League. In 2024, he had the 13th highest passing rating amongst the 2024 quarterbacks. So we talk about a pawn. Here's your pawn. Christian McCaffrey ran for 1,459 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 272 carries in 2023. Last year, he was only able to handle 50 carries for 202 yards and no touchdowns due to injuries. There are enormous questions about this wide receiving group. Deebo Samuel was traded to the Commanders. Ayuk is coming back from a torn ACL. Shanahan expects week 6. Juwan Jennings wants a new contract. Lynch isn't going to give him one. This is the final year of a 2-year, $15.4 million contract, and he has a calf injury. He's not going to be available week 1. When they asked Lynch, what's true? Is he angry about his contract? Or, does he actually have a calf injury? And Lynch said both are true. He's angry about his contract and he has a calf injury. Jacob Cowan was placed on injured reserve on Wednesday with a hamstring injury. Rookie Jordan Watkins has been out with an ankle injury. Demarcus Robinson is suspended for the first 3 games for violating league substance abuse policy, which means Ricky Pearsall needs to be an absolute monster. And maybe he's capable of being a monster, but that's what he's going to have to be. They brought in Sky Moore. They just agreed to a deal with Marquez Valdes-Scantling after he was cut by Seattle. George Kittle is elite. He's incredible. But he turns 32 in October. The offensive line, solid, headlined by Trent Williams, but he's 37. The 49ers defense got so bad so quickly last year. All of a sudden, you blink, season ends, and they're ranked 32nd in the league. Can Robert Saleh fix it this fast? The defensive line must be better this year. So Nick Bosa is going to give you, a ton. But Gross Matos, Kevin Givens, Jordan Elliott, they all struggled last year. They were all terrible in run defense. They lose both Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga, linebacker and safety, respectively, to the Broncos. Charvarius Ward leaves for the Colts. So they bring in multiple run stoppers in this year's draft to fix these things. They bring in Michael Williams with a first rounder out of Georgia. Warner continues to prove that he is the best linebacker in the league. He ranked second behind Zach Bond. You could say Zach Bond was better. He ranked second among qualified linebackers. Diamador Lenoir is on his way to being an elite cornerback. But all of this comes down to health. The reason why they have a 10.5 win total is they have the easiest strength of schedule in the entire league. Based on last year's records, the teams they're playing have a .415 winning percentage. Take it away for us, Troy, the San Francisco 49ers.
This is a really tough game. This division is so tough. We're talking futures, right? So this division is extremely tough. Kyle Shanahan, clearly one of the top 5 offensive coaches in the league, a brilliant offensive mind who I think was kind of handcuffed over his offensive line situations over the past few years. But I think this is the best offensive line they're coming in with preseason that we've seen so far. I think it's finally a line that I could trust. Trent Williams, if he could stay healthy, that's the thing. Can Trent Williams stay healthy? He's 37 years old now. He continues to post elite grades per PFF. You watch him on the field, and he's just as elite as PFF is grading him out as. And then you got above average quality everywhere except for center. I think Pooney is one of the best fucking linemen in the game. He's from Kansas. He was drafted in the 3rd round, but he logged over 1,000 snaps last season in his rookie season, and he absolutely showed out. And mostly in the run block category, not in the pass block category, but that's scheme-oriented, right? If you could run the ball effectively, our boy Kyle Shanahan is going to be able to put together a good offensive scheme. You got a generational talent in the backfield. Obviously, CMC. How healthy is he really going to be? Batman needs Robin, and I think we finally have one. Brian Robinson, who I'm fond of, who's good in pass protection. He's a running back that I think pairs well in this scenario, in this environment in San Francisco. I think he's going to benefit from it. He's going to be a long-standing running back in the NFL. I think this is one of the better top 5 running back groups in the NFL. But like you said, can we include CMC in the wide receiver group? Because if so, it's probably above average unit. But just with Pearsall showed promise. Jennings kind of broke out. Kittle is still high IQ, well above average, obviously elite. the wide receivers are going to be fine. It comes down to Purdy. Like, this offense looks good. Purdy under Shanahan behind this offensive line with this talent around him should be just fine. Yes, he struggles when push comes to shove, but when it comes to like win total over regular season performance, I think the offensive pressure is there to bet on this team. But then you flip it over to the defense, and here's the funny thing: like Saleh, I talked shit about this guy every single 2 years in a row. Last year it got really bad because I thought he was really, really bad defensively, especially like connecting with his group. You just could tell that there was no love between Robert Saleh and his team. I hated this guy, but he loves cover 2. He loves cover 4. That's where I like to live. If I had to run a defensive scheme, it would be cover 2, cover 4. But I would mix in some cover 6. We don't see that from Saleh. He also has a wide 9 variation that's like, it's pretty innovative. He's a pioneer of the wide 9, and I think that he could be effective with this new cut defensive line. 2 rookies coming in that are projected to be in the starting lineup. I think it could suit this defensive line well. Like we always thought about one of the defensive line for the 49ers being elite, one of the best over the past 5 years. But now they're looking like they're going to have a down season. I think Saleh actually is going to deploy a defensive scheme that's going to help elevate this defensive line and their production this offseason. They're lining up next to Bosa too. You got Bosa on the field. I talk about these, like, there's 2 impactful edge players, in my opinion. That's Myles Garrett. That's Aiden Hutchinson. And I think the next tier, there's really only 2 in that top tier. Bosa's right behind them. But Bosa, what is he now? He's 28 years old. I mean, he's still in his prime. This defensive line should be fine under Saleh. But I think the linebacker is going to take a big hit without Dre Greenlaw. But Warner, man, his innate ability in coverage. I don't know if they just tell this guy, like, hey, just go do whatever you feel like is the right thing to do. Because that's what it looks like. You watch film on him, and you look at, like, okay, they're in cover 3. They're in cover 4. They're in man-to-man. What is he doing? Like, it don't make sense because, they're running man. I could break it down. I wish I could pull up some film right now to show you what I'm talking about. I think they basically tell Fred Warner in a pass set, if it's not run first, he's a run first defender. If they're not running the football, basically, I feel like he's just like hey, go wherever your instinct tells you. I don't know what else to think. You watch this defensive the film, like, that's what it is. And Warner's elite, man. I think he's definitely the best linebacker in the NFL. And another unit that's very top heavy with Warner, because losing Drake Greenlaw is going to hurt them. And the secondary is obviously not looking good. And there's really nobody on this defense in the secondary that's a headliner. Bernardo Green, like, he better butt – Bernardo, is that it? Is it Bernardo Green? He better butt into a superstar, because outside of that, there's really no hope for this defense. Lenore is solid, but, I mean, he's not a game-changing defender.
I think he will be this year. I think he's going to become a top corner in the NFL. I think he's trending.
Lenoir, you're saying?
Yeah, Diamador Lenoir.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. I really do.
JT's a Niners fan. He says Lenoir is still suspect. I think he's on his way to being an elite corner. Elite.
I struggle to break down the 49ers on tape because especially defensively, and now insert Robert Saleh into the equation. There was already times where I was like, what coverage is this? And mostly because of Warner, because, you usually get him defending a running back, a tight end, or a hook zone, right, when they're playing zone coverage. But it was none of that. Like, it's hard to expect. I don't know what to expect from this defense. So it makes it really hard to cap this team pre-flop. So I want to see what Saleh does. I think the offense is going to be just fine. It's what is Saleh going to do with this defense? And what's this defense going to look like? I mean, it's a new look defense, in my opinion, with this new defensive line. So we'll see what the NFL what has in store. I don't know what has in store for this 49ers team.
Coin says Saints, Jaguars, Giants, Panthers, Browns, Titans, Colts are all on a San Francisco 49ers schedule. The easiest schedule in the NFL, and that's why the 10.5 is there. That is why. It takes a little bit away from how tough the division is. But if the 49ers and the Rams played on a neutral field healthy, I would bet on the Rams to win the game. And I'm a 49ers fan. So more work needs to be done. That concludes the NFC Futures. Let's do a quick review of the future looks that we are gravitating towards. Troy moved on the under 9.5 wins at plus 100. He'll lead off with that. But I'm interested in joining the Commanders under 9.5 wins at plus 100, or the Commanders not to make the playoffs. I won't bet both. I think that the Giants 5.5 is a trap. It looks so appealing to me, and if it looks so appealing, I should probably stay away from it. As we roll through, I'm interested in the under 10.5 wins for the Packers. It's such a tough division. 10-7 gets them in the playoffs. I don't think Jordan Love is going to play a full season. He's coming in hurt. And then we have, as I move down through here, I think the Bucks to win the division is a max bet. I didn't think I'd get there, but that's where I am right now, and I'll work with this, and marinate with this. And we have the Tuesday show, and we have AFC coming up later tonight. The Panthers under 6.5 wins. I actually want to bet now. I actually want to flip.
What do you got for odds on the Falcons?
The
over under team total.
Sorry, I'm gonna get back to the south. The Falcons, it's 7.5 juice to the over. You could make it an 8 to take the juice down. They're plus 210 to win the division and 75 to 1 to win the Super Bowl. I'm actually thinking of flipping. I can't even believe this, but actually
everybody wants the Bucks, Jim. Everybody wants the Bucks.
Well, that's because I think there's some real issues with the Falcons, and I didn't think that 2 months ago.
But that goes against your thesis.
Yes. Well, I want to bet against the underlying theme. The underlying theme is the Falcons are the bet on team in that division. That's what the public feels. They think Penix is bet on, Falcons are bet on. I believe.
Oh man, don't tell me that, man. That's painful for me to hear. Because I was a Penix believer when nobody else was, bro.
You were.
Everyone was like, why is he being drafted 12th? He's the fucking best quarterback in the draft. I wish the Bears took him.
The Rams Super Bowl, Rams division, I'm going to be thinking about. I've copied and pasted action from everybody else that's popped it in. And I'm not going to bet the 49ers under because it just seems so blatantly obvious. Obviously, their schedule is really weak. But we'll go over all that. We got D. Jenkins action in Eagles division. Commanders to not make the playoffs plus 115. Packers over 9.5 wins. Saints to finish 4th place in the division at minus 135. Let's copy.
I got to do it, Jim. Give me the Falcons team total over 7.5. Was it minus 135?
It's minus 140 right now at 365, but I imagine if we shopped around, we could get better.
Yeah, I thought I saw 135.
So is that number 2 for you after the Commanders?
Yep. I'm going to take a 135 right now.
See that? I mean, to me, like, that's the number 7.5 is insane. How could the Falcons in this horrifically weak division have a win total of 7.5? It's insane. And does that mean that it's a gift? Derek here says Falcons win that division. That is the sentiment. And yet the books pull out a 7.5. I remember after the Kraken ran to almost made it to the conference final. And then all summer I was like, oh, Kraken. I couldn't stop thinking about the Kraken. And then we went to the futures market and they were minus 130 to make the playoffs. I was like, oh shit. Kraken's they're gonna be terrible. And it was only in the whole offseason, I was like, oh god, how good the Kraken gonna be? How could the Falcons be a 7.5? Like, it's just It's insane to me in this division. Something's wrong with the Falcons, I think, but we're going to have so much time to talk about it here. Coin says I see Atlanta over 8 wins at -120. I could build a better 8 here than that, but over 7.5 here for Troy.
For an 8. I just bet a -135. I think a fucking bad number.
No, I don't think so. If the over 8's -120, then that's a good number. All right, we are going to take a we'll take a 20-minute break. We'll take a 20-minute break. So we're going to push the AFC show to 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, 8:30 Central. So we're going to take a 24-minute break. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the show. I've been alone in a room for 48 hours and got sick, and the anxiety and the stress and the work, and you get out of life what you put into it. And the harder we work on these angles and these teams as we get into the season, the more money we're going to make out of it.
And that's the thing. It's like this is most of my work was really geared towards just building the foundation for the rest of the season. Futures are great. Futures is not where you're going to make money long term in the NFL, in my opinion. So, but it's good to understand where these teams are, what their pre-flop reads are. You know, like it's very important. But
I have cut futures down enormously, and my ROI has gone way up. If you're trying hard not to make certain bets, the ones that squeeze through are generally money-making bets. D. Jenkins adding the Commanders under 9.5 wins. Have to make money on my conviction. The Commanders are a fade. AM says that we appreciate the hard work and platform to collaborate. I love it so much, and you're a big part of it, AM. And then says finding out what the sentiment is on teams before the season is extremely valuable information. We will see you guys here shortly, but thank you to all of you guys. Coin, AM, AJ, Stogstill, Harold Williams, Dennis Garcia, D. Jenkins, Topset, Big Daddy Boom, Susie Easton, Nasty Nate, Harold Williams, Frank Virginia, all these great guys, My Dude, Birdie, Irish King. Thank you guys so much for the support and for supporting our channel and our show. Huge thank you to Kevin Ponachera. He gifted 10 Pub Sports Radio memberships. And then our friend Big O gifted 5 Pub Sports Radio memberships. There were donos here from WT. There were donos from Gorky. It truly means so much to us. Thank you from the bottom of our heart. Thank you. Now, let's go. Take a quick break and then come and attack the AFC card. Troy, any last words for the Capper Sport in the show?
Yeah, let's get to the AFC. That's where the real money is.
Let's go. We will see you guys shortly. Thank you so much for your support.